breaks. I'm standing on as many pads as we got over here. Yeah.
He does. He's double padded.
Yeah.
You double padded.
Today's a heavy flow day. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. But yeah, we're good to go, guys.
All right. What happened with your training?
So yesterday, the biggest dumbbells I have in the gym are 170s, right? And so I've been really going back and forth about figuring out getting some bigger dumbbells. Because it's just they're right now, for whatever reason, everybody's excited about these, incline dumbbell with 200 pounds or 200, whatever. And so I've the last couple weeks been hitting the 170s, like pretty easy, whatever. And one of my training partners, I have 2 of these Thomas Inch dumbbells. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what they are.
Like the crazy, like unliftable.
Yeah, that huge, thick handle, and they probably weigh like 220 pounds or something, right?
No, only. So they're supposed to be 172. The original 172. I had a guy. Carrie had a guy actually make them for me, but they. It's kind of a long story. She organized all of it without me knowing. And
cool.
They got shipped to her house. There wasn't a lift gate. She was pregnant. I was in the UK, and she figured out how to get them off the truck.
She's the first female, basically, to lift the Thomas Inch dumbbell. That's how you're telling me?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So
while pregnant, especially.
She got these for me, but they're I think they're both 176 pounds, 176.8, 176.2, something like that. But I have 2 of them, and so my training partner was like, "Well, Brian, why don't you incline press those?" And I was like, "Okay."
You're like, "Okay, there's 2 torn biceps."
Yeah.
Because how are you going to get them up, right?
Well, this is the problem, right? Lifting them, just picking up 2 at once is ridiculous.
How many people in the world can do that?
I would.
Maybe 10 people that compete in World's Strongest Man, and that would be about it.
To be fair, I don't know how many guys that even compete in World's Strongest Man could do it.
So maybe like 2 or 3 guys.
There's definitely guys that could pick 1 up, but 2 at once is like a whole nother level. I've seen it done in person less than a handful of times.
Yeah,
ever.
That's a lot of weight. That's insane.
So I of course he brings this up, and I enjoy grip challenges and I enjoy kind of strength challenges, and so I said, all right, buddy, let's kind of do a couple more warm-ups and then we'll see. So I kind of chalked up my legs and we brought the bench over and all that, and I was doing some research, and I've never seen anybody attempt that ever. Right. I mean, you're talking about a feat of strength that's pretty ridiculous. Right. Like, because you have to not only pick them up but get them on your legs, and they're round. The ends of them are round, so you're balancing them. It's not like a dumbbell plate end where you can set it on your leg and it stays. Right. It's trying. So if you don't get it perfectly positioned, you're having to manipulate it. Right. So it's really, really difficult. But anyway, of course, I took him up on the challenge and did it.
Damn.
And we did luckily I had my film guy there.
Did we get video?
Yeah, we got it. We got it all on video. It's coming on Friday. It's coming on Friday, but it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Was it? It must have been really hard to get the weight in position. You were doing incline dumbbell with
incline dumbbell. Yep. So it was really hard to get it up. But the surprising part for me in my head, thinking it through, was I thought that once I got it into my lap and got it on my legs and kicked it up to my shoulders, I thought it would be easy. It was not, because there's so much weight and the thick handle.
Right.
The dumbbells felt like they were trying to go back and forth, and side to side was really hard.
Right.
It just was not balanced at all.
Charles Poliquin to like dig in on your neck before you do a set of those.
Exactly.
Remember that shit?
I know.
That weird stuff that he did to us?
The pen out and stick it in. He did all that weird
shit to us, and we lifted more weight. It was strange.
Yeah.
You've been back to him before?
I have, yeah. We were trying to do some different stuff. I've gone down. I've done a couple training sessions down there, and he's always doing. It's like I can't figure out why he's doing things, but he's like, okay, sit down, do this.
Doesn't really tell you.
No.
Just does some weird voodoo and leaves it at that.
Maybe after I go back for the next couple of years, I'll figure out 1 or 2 things. But
I guess he has a gym.
He just opened. I think it just opened one.
Yeah, it'd be good for you to get over there and see what's going on over there.
Yeah. There, it looks neat. He was telling me about the dumbbells that he got in there, and I think he's got a 1 pound increment up. The whole rack is 1 pound increments. It's like the biggest set of dumbbells they've ever done.
That's crazy.
Or something nuts.
I went to a gym in Santa Rosa, which is near where we have our beach house in Bodega Bay, and I just happened to stumble upon this gym, and I looked it up online. I was looking up other gyms in the area, try to get a good training session in, and I saw there was like a 24-hour fitness, and there's this gym and that gym, and I was like, oh, I'm trying to find something that has, good machines. I'm trying to still do some of the bodybuilding workouts and stuff like that, but I wanted to mix in some powerlifting stuff. And so you start looking it up online, and I find this gym. It's called like ShawStrength or some Scion Strength. And I was like, oh, what is this? I click on it, and it looks like a college weight room,
Okay.
like Division I college weight room. I'm like, oh, wow, that looks pretty cool. Well, I went and checked this place out, and it's the biggest, craziest, like best gym I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
It's probably like 15,000 square feet of just weights, and it's got tons of platforms and racks. It has every single bar that you could. You know how expensive that's.
Oh my God.
Gets to be.
Yep.
All the weights that they have there are the silver Ivanko
Holy cow.
45-pound calibrated plates.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I was just like seeing dollar signs everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, cha-ching, cha-ching. Like this is a few $1 million worth of equipment. It was absolutely insane. It was just,
wow.
They had a little bit of everything. I don't think they maybe didn't have some of the strongman implements, but they had like a log and some things like that. It was fucking insane.
Yeah, and it's not very well known, or
no, there was no sign out front, and it said that it was like there used to be a Montessori school there, so that sign is still there, and you don't even know it's a gym.
Really?
I walked in, and I was like, "What the hell is this place?"
Wow! Did you figure out who?
Yeah.
I
I met the owner, and they were super cool. They were really nice, and they gave me and Jeremy Avila, who's recently deadlifted 86 at one of Jesse Burdick's or at Boss of Bosses meet. They gave they gave us 24-hour access. They gave us these keys.
Oh, that's awesome.
We can go to the gym anytime we want. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah,
I think the gym is just
like that.
It's just brand new. Like it just barely getting off the ground. Like they just barely got everything going, and they just barely opened up.
I think somebody just got some dough. Somebody has some dough.
Well, I mean, to have that kind of spread of equipment, and I mean those plates and bars, and it's funny. I think the first time I came here, you remember me walking around, and I think when you've spent money on stuff, you really realize what things cost,
right?
And it's building up. So to have a place like that, you're just walking in, and to the average person, they may say, "Oh, that's just plates or just bars or whatever," but it's not. It's not at all just plates
row
and bars.
after row of machines and stuff too. It wasn't just like a powerlifting thing. It wasn't just one thing. They had, everything you can imagine. What's the most amount of money you've spent on any one piece that you have? Because you got some interesting stuff in your garage. It's like a 3-car garage type thing, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know what it would, because it's deep and then big. I mean, it's like 1,500 square feet, or 1,600 square feet, and we're actually in the middle of expanding it now. And the goal is
going right into the kitchen, or are you going to go the opposite way?
No, other way. Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie, sorry about this. You got to move the stove, refrigerator.
So the goal is she can park and be able to park in there.
Yeah, because the winter gets to be rough, right?
So hopefully that'll work. But I mean, for me, I've invested a lot of money. I mean that the deadlift setup for the old Arnold,
like the elephant bar or whatever.
Well, it's like the Hummer tire setup.
Right.
I bought one of those, so the setup with the tires and the adapters and everything like that was $10,000 just for that setup.
Oh my God!
So the bar was $5,000. All the tires obviously are very expensive, and then all the adapters that was $10,000. I think I had a set of power stairs made years and years ago, and
that's a ridiculous thing to have made. It's like a little mini stadium in your backyard or something, right? Just a little flight of stairs, but it's got to be reinforced and stuff. Right?
That was the guy I was training at the time. I actually was training the it was a great relationship for me to have because he was the owner of a steel manufacturing company.
There you go.
So I would come in and train and say, oh, I got this weird event. And he'd say, hey, we could probably build that.
That's cool.
And so I ended up, I don't know that he ever really paid me any actual cash for training. It was always equipment. So we would kind of make a deal, and he helped me out big time,
Right.
like with it. But that would have been probably a $10,000 setup of power stairs. Of course, you have all the other equipment, and we joke, or I joke with guys, like you kind of look around, like here's this piece of equipment, it's $5,000. This piece of equipment's It's just easy.
Right.
Everything's $5,000.
Right.
Like it's just kind of.
Are you addicted to it? Like, do you still look at new equipment and new pieces all the time? Like just like somebody that is into guns or somebody that's into cars?
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely do. I just saw.
It's like you have everything you need.
Yes. Oh,
and then some,
my God.
right?
Yeah, and then some. Yeah, I have. I don't need.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not wanting it because I need it for
Right.
training. It's more just I want it. You know.
Right.
I just saw Rogue put out a video of this new thing they're coming out that attaches to the rack, and it's got all this, all these, you can take it up and down and do all these different movements, and I'm just like, well, I need to have one of those. You know? Like it's too easy for
You're
me.
like, how am I going to break the news to Carrie?
Yes. Yep. Carrie, we need this, we need that. It's
slow down on
those
buying
conversations. Those conversations are always very interesting because she just kind of has this one look on her face, like, really, Brian, again? Like what? Why? And
The hot tub, the cold tub, the
yeah, oh yeah. I've already built up this whole conversation about how I'm going to convince her of why we need this, and she's just so wise to it now that it doesn't. She's like, well, it doesn't really matter what I say because you're just going to figure out a way to get it. So she's like, go ahead, whatever.
Hey, there's two kinds of people in this world: people that get what they want, and everybody else.
That's it.
Right?
I like that. I like that.
So you're charming enough to pull it off.
I like to think so.
That's the
I
only
like
way.
to think so.
So you have a new addition to the family since last time you've been here.
Yeah, we had our second little boy. Yeah,
Awesome.
so that's been great. Yeah,
And you said earlier he's 4 months old now.
he just turned 4 months. Yeah.
How's Braxton doing with him?
Braxton? The first couple days,
He punching
was
him
a
and
little
stuff.
bit not quite. Throwing toys at him, mainly because he wants to share. So I feel like the intent is good, not malicious, but he doesn't quite understand that Kellen's not strong enough yet to do all these things with him. But it's been good, man. It's as you know, it's a life changer. The second kid is really things change because now it's really one-on-one.
Right.
Like you're running. Instead of 2-on-1, it's just 1-on-1 now with the kids. So it's a big change from that regard for us. But right now with the baby, I cannot take any credit whatsoever because it's all my wife. Like she's the one. We've even joked like if I was the one that had to like have the baby inside me and have the baby and feed the baby, we wouldn't. Yeah, we wouldn't have kids.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to handle it. I just wouldn't. She's the champ with that. So
I can't do it.
Yeah. I think if men in general had to do that, there would be a lot less kids.
No way.
In the world, for sure.
Just some people that listen to this, or some people that are into strongman and into some of these sports, they might not understand, where somebody's finances come from. You've been a sponsored athlete for a long time.
Yeah.
Sponsorships used to be a lot. I guess I'd just say richer. You go back 10 years, 15 years even. Metrex and some of these big companies, Celtech and some of those companies it was very common for people to have, $100,000, $125,000 contracts. And,
sure.
It's rare to see that anymore unless you're like, tippy top notch like you are. How does some of that work? How long have you been a sponsored athlete for?
I think I got, and this is a good question. I mean, sponsored athlete's kind of a loose term,
right,
nowadays, and I feel like it really is nowadays.
It might just be free stuff.
Exactly, and everybody. I think a lot of companies have tried to.
I guess I'd say more like how long you've been like a professional athlete to the point where you were like, well, I don't really need like a job anymore.
Yeah. I would say for me that point probably came around 2011 when I first won World's Strongest Man. Maybe even a little bit after that, to be honest. It was kind of a balance where I had kind of the sponsorships, but it was mainly product endorsements.
Right.
So my first supplement deal was just product, which was huge for me at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, because now you take that off your plate.
You don't
not
buy
having to
amino acids and protein powder
exactly.
and all that stuff
So
anymore.
that was huge, and you kind of move from that to where once you start doing better, you kind of graduate to like, all right, well maybe we can do some product plus money, and then it just kind of evolves,
Right.
But it's a fine line, like I said now, and back then it was different because you didn't have the social media, you didn't have everybody trying to promote this code or whatever, and these companies now I think latch on to up and coming athletes,
Right.
and say, hey, we'll give you a code. We're not going to give anything else, but you can promote this code and say, and then everybody wants to say they're sponsored. So it's a different game now, and then it's with that being said, if you look at like what you were saying with some of these bigger name athletes that had the huge contracts and all that, if you look at, let's just say somebody has 500,000 followers on social media, if you take 100 people that have 5,000 followers, and 100 people are going to promote this for a code, is that for a company, is that more valuable than having somebody that has a huge following promoting it? And and it's for free, so you don't have to put out the contract.
Right.
And now you have this group of people that are super pumped because they're sponsored.
Right.
Even though there's no money, the company doesn't have any skin in the game.
They
Essentially,
put more. Those people may put more energy and more time into it because
for sure
they don't have other obligations with other companies.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a growing thing, and things have had to evolve with that. But it was, for me, it was a grind. It really was.
Do you manage all this, or have you ever had a manager, or is it like you and your wife together?
I've actually had a couple different agents or managers that try to come in. The issue though for me has always been that a lot of times people contact me through my website or directly, and then I was at certain times handing that off to somebody, but they were then taking their percentage of the deal.
Right.
And it was, they couldn't really negotiate it better than I could anyway. And most of the time, whoever's dealing at the top of that company wanted to speak to me anyway.
Right.
So it was essentially adding somebody into the mix that really didn't help and took money away, which wasn't fun. So I now have I still have somebody that basically can be more of a bigger deal guy, and if something comes to me where I'm like, okay, this is way too much wording, it's way too much,
a big
kind
contract
of fine print.
comes across and you got to send it to somebody.
Yeah, but I like dealing with the people I work with. I like talking to them directly better anyway, because I feel like that it makes a better relationship, and you kind of establish that more, having more direct contact, because I can understand what they want from me and what I want from them, kind of thing.
Right.
It's just easier for me. So it's a fine line though. Like I said, up until, you're talking for me up until winning World's Strongest Man, so being the best in the world at strongman, I was still having to work part-time and do all of that to make ends meet and make it all work. And it's it's a lot different, I think, for an American to do it, because there's
sense.
so much other stuff, and
people don't care as much about strongman here, right?
Yeah, it's just tougher to kind of get established.
But we care, Brian.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's why I'm here. It's a family environment here. Like I'm not getting kicked out. But it's a little different. I had so many people tell me, it was funny when I was coming up that, and and these are guys that have been doing the sport for a long time that, when you get into this, you're not getting into it to make money. You're not going to make money. You're not going to turn it into your job. You're not going to, don't even think about that.
You're like, screw that.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I take a lot of pride that I've been able to do that and been able to get established as, I'm a professional strongman, and not only just because of the title, because they hand out, in strongman, they hand out these pro cards, and now you're a pro. But what does being a pro strongman really mean if you're not, like you said, you're not making your income from it directly? Right. If you have another job and then you go compete, then you're basically just an amateur.
Well, it seems like you take these sponsorships very seriously too, because like with our relationship, you've always done such a good job, but I see that you're sponsored by other companies as well, like Rogue Fitness and 8Man and a few others. And I always see that you're like mindful of the fact that you're sponsored, where sometimes some of these other people, they may not be paying attention to that. They may not consider it a job, but you're handling it like a professional should handle it. Like, I'm sponsored by these people. There's an exchange going on here, and I should try to give them their value. And maybe if I give them their value and then some, maybe they'll look at me and say, hey, you know what? We should do more with this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Is that kind of the concept?
Yeah. I definitely try to be very aware of it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard trying to, I've gone to the point now that I've hired a media guy.
Right.
Where I pay him.
You don't have to think about it as much.
Yeah.
Here, throw this shirt on. Let's take a picture.
Exactly. Yeah. His job is, I'll tell him, like, a couple days ago, like, we put out a video, and it was a slingshot video where I'm putting on the new X sleeves, and
right.
And I'm like, I want to promote this. You make a video to promote this for me and help me, because I can't put that video together, and it has more impact, like kind of a catchy kind of advertisement, if you will. Right. But people still enjoy it because I'm training, and you got the music to go along with it and all that.
Yeah,
so
makes it way better.
That's for me, that's an investment that I made in hiring somebody to help me do that, because I know that it'll mean more to my hopefully mean more to my sponsor relationships, because I've got that guy. Or if we need a video clip of something, or we need a picture of something, he can do it, and I can bring him along and he can do that for me. But then again, that's another step kind of in the evolution of getting there, because you can't, he's expensive. He costs money, and that's not something I could do. Probably even 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't have done that. Right. I needed to do more of it on my own, and it's just trying to grow. I'm constantly trying to grow and to evolve, and I think a lot of the things that
you can't really grow much more than
no,
than you already have.
We're
gonna run out of space.
Yeah,
got a new facility.
Yeah, grow.
That microphone stand doesn't get any taller.
Yeah. We're maxing. Everything's maxed.
That's what does it mean to be a professional strongman for you? Like, what does it all entail, top to bottom? Give us an average day for you. What does it look like? What's your morning ritual? Like, take us through a whole day.
Yeah. Well, being a pro strongman basically means that's my whole day. Basically, is what it means. I mean, everything goes into it. So it's time management. And now with the family, that's a big part of it. So in the morning, it's doing breakfast with Braxton mainly, and then trying to help get him ready so we can send him off to daycare and spend some time playing a little bit. And then from there, then kind of get into the work and making sure that I've got my food out, and if I have to do meal prep or do anything else.
How many meals a day? 8?
It's mainly 6. 6 is what I'm doing. But still, you put a couple hours, 2.5 hours between all those. I mean, that's 12 to 14 hours of eating probably. And then, some training time, recovery work, if I have any appointments that I have to go to, all of that goes on top of it. And it's funny when you talk about it, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're going to all these different things and then sitting down to eat, stopping what you're doing, the day goes away so fast. Yeah. It's amazing at night, and I just sit down, and then thinking to myself, wow, that was crazy. And we got to get up and do it all again, but
Right.
it's a grind is what it is. I mean, it's something that's, it's a lot of work. It really is.
Each meal is going to take you about 20 minutes or so to eat, right? And your training time is probably in the neighborhood of 3 hours, if not longer sometimes, especially with the event stuff.
Yeah.
An hour could go by just trying to set some of these things up, right?
Yeah, for sure. Some of the events are very hard to set up. I mean, if I go do a truck pull or something like that, it's taking equipment out there,
Drive
it's loading
somewhere.
all the equipment up, going to the fire department. I mean, that can take hours. Hours, and then warming up and
Oh, great!
setting
That
up everything.
giant is out there again.
Yes,
He wants to
yeah.
pull our truck. Hey, we have to actually use this thing for fires.
Yes, yeah, yep. Ironically enough, they've never. I think only one time they've actually got a call where they needed to leave, and we had to stop the truck pull, and they had to leave. But it's we always get pretty lucky with that, or I use a truck that it's not like the active duty truck.
Right.
We've kind of switched over to that.
If you have to make a decision between sleep or food, what do you go to? You just eat your last meal and stay awake, and then go to bed after that, and wake up a little later, or how do you?
Normally
I find myself in that predicament a lot. That's
Yeah.
kind of actually why I ask.
I would say normally what I will do is I will get the meal down and then go to sleep.
Right.
It's pretty common for me to go to bed after eating.
Right.
And some people say that it messes with their sleep. I don't really feel like it does too bad. I guess it depends on how much I eat.
Right.
But you definitely can't skip the meal. I feel like that's
need the energy.
Sleep is super, super important, but you cannot be skipping meals. That's not part of the plan for sure.
That's not what it takes to be a pro and to be a champion,
No,
right?
You got to have it in.
How
yeah.
many grams of right now? How many grams of protein? How many grams of carbs and things like that? Do you keep track of all that?
Yeah, we're. I think the goal is around 400 grams of protein. Is what we're trying to shoot for right now. I've been higher than that before.
Right.
And not really lower.
It's about 8. Is that about 8 ounces with every meal? 8 ounces of some sort of meat.
Normally 12.
Oh, okay.
12, yeah. 12 after cooking. So I normally weigh it out after I've cooked it, and it's about 12-ounce portions normally.
Right.
Depending on kind of into a contest, I'll get up to like 14 ounces, which is a little bit over, definitely over a pound of meat
Right.
cooked per meal. And then kind of up but really with Stan, it's more trying to drive the carbs, like with the rice.
Right.
Rice or sweet potatoes, more of that if I can. So.
And then how many carbs?
It has to be at least 1,000 grams.
And is that like weighed and measured too, or you just?
No, it is measured out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say most meals I'm at 2.5 to 3 cups of rice.
Wow.
Each meal. So it's a big. I mean, it's really a big portion.
Yeah.
Once you get almost a pound of meat or at a pound.
Is it
of
hard
meat.
for you to get down sometimes?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it probably gets
Yep.
gets the better of you, right?
Yeah. It's
You
well, it doesn't get the better of me, but
You make it happen.
we have to get focused to get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It's funny day to day. A lot of times. Now I'm kind of programmed where I'll get hungry and I'll be ready to go.
Right. Yeah. The
It's
food, the frequency and the amount of food that you're eating is making you more hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
Driving it.
That's
yeah.
kind of how it works. Your insulin levels will go down, they'll go up, and they'll move around a little bit, and it'll make you more hungry.
Yeah.
And then fat content is just kind of like whatever's in the foods type of deal, or
That's actually something we've had to play with a little bit. I kind of reached out to Stan and I felt like I wasn't getting enough calories, even though I was eating a ton. Like just keep it. I was driving the rice and obviously having bison, but it was all lean steak.
yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, we need we got to up the fat a little
Yeah,
bit.
Stan, I'm not a figure competitor.
Yes,
Let's go here.
So we've switched it up. Added in, I get some bacon now, which is awesome.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's not bad. I haven't had any bacon, and then I actually switched over to ribeye steak. So I buy those and then I grind them all up and make them into burgers
Right.
now, and that's been wonderful. That's been way better. So I feel like I've actually felt fuller and had a lot more calories in me from just the fat,
Right.
So it's not necessarily different quantities, but the fat content has been much higher.
And then you grind up the ribeyes because, like, the ground meat at the store, they kind of grind up Is that why?
It's easier to eat. It's
Right.
just easier to
Okay.
eat. So
Probably tastes really good.
if I don't have to, kind of sit there with a steak and cut it all up and all that, I would rather eat ground meat if I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget cutting and chewing.
Yes.
I mean, chewing on the steak.
It's awful. Well, then you up the eating time too,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, if you think about it, you go six meals a day.
So
Average, probably
bodybuilding, there's all
20.
these weird rules. You can't even do that in bodybuilding. You can't do stuff like that. Like they don't let you. Like, you have to like chew it. It's like part of the.
It's part of the.
It's part of the whole like metabolic process. They're like, no, you can't do it that way. And I'm like, why not? Can't I put this stuff in a blender or something?
Yeah.
Like, no.
You have to chew it.
Yeah. I'm like,
I wonder how even grinding up the meat.
yeah,
'Cause
because you're going to burn more calories just from chewing.
Interesting.
And that's where your digestion starts. It starts with your teeth and your tongue and your throat and the acid and like, it's just part of the whole process. It's not that eating the other kind of meat is bad. It's just that chewing it, I guess, is what the hell's the word I'm looking for? But I guess like when you eat like celery, they say celery has like a negative net caloric intake.
Yeah,
You got to
for sure.
chew it, and it doesn't have that much
Interesting.
nutritional value. So
Yeah,
the bodybuilding stuff was weird.
I get. Well, I mean, it already takes me long enough. Like I said, I mean, on a daily basis, I would say probably eating at least 3 hours. And then if you mixed in the prep time,
I thought you said
they both started with a P. That was close enough. Your mind goes there all the time. Yeah.
Well, 3 hours of eating. I mean, there's got to be math. My dad's in the room here. He's an accountant. Maybe he could help us with the.
I don't know.
The math. It's got to equal out to be at least an hour and a half of pooping, right?
Because
That's
3
half.
hours intake you'd imagine a quarter of that would be outtake.
Yeah,
I'm not good with the maths, but yeah, that's about
sounds
14 hours.
Are you good? Do you have somebody here that's going to be timing me when I go to the bathroom?
We might.
So
we might.
Smokey
will be standing right outside of the stall, looking at you through the crack.
making it weird. Yeah.
What goes into a training session? Is there a lot of a prep for just one training session? Like, is there a certain protein drink that you have right before you work out, and a certain drink that you have during the workout or pre-workout? Like, what does that look like? And then post-workout?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of prep, for me, and it's something I've actually I started working with Redcon One, and they've got a ton of products for around training, and that I haven't been doing. I mean, of course, with Stan, it's all the sodium and carbs and drive and all that. So I'm still doing that, but I've added in some of the Redcon stuff, and it's been amazing how my body's responded to the training session because of the length and the intensity and all that with my training sessions. It's been great to have the supplements during,
Right.
And I feel like I'm able to maintain that level of training longer.
Right.
So that's been awesome. I mean, they've got a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm taking stuff before, during, and then after, much more than I even was before.
You probably don't take like a pre-workout necessarily, though, right? You probably don't take like something that spins you up. You probably don't take like a caffeine thing or anything.
I actually at times I do. I try to be careful with using it too much.
Right.
So it's. I think that the caffeine and all that can be definitely overdone.
But it's time to deadlift, then maybe.
Yes, yeah, bigger.
Right.
I do like before some of the bigger training sessions, and it depends on my day too with the kids, and I mean if I've got to shift gears very very quickly at night because I put Braxton to bed, and his bedtime is kind of 6:37.
Right.
And then we normally start training 7:15. So I've got to kind of wind down, calm with him, read him books, get him to bed, whatever. And then all of a sudden I've got to flip this switch to be like, all right, now I'm going to go lift a ton of weight. So it's an interesting, before I had the kids, it was and you probably know this. Like you just think about training all day, and you're
nothing else in the way.
you're already amped up and ready to go. By the time that comes, it's like, all right, I'm ready. I'm already prepared. But with me, I've just got done playing with the kids for a couple hours and doing a bath and getting them dinner and all that, and then all of a sudden I've got to shift gears and say, okay, I'm gonna go get crazy intense and train. And on those nights, if it's just been one of those nights where he's like, I don't want to do a bath and I don't want to do dinner, and it's I will at times definitely throw a pre-workout in on those nights because I just need that kick. I need to kick it up.
Is
a notch.
he at that age where he wants to do a lot of stuff on his own and it takes him forever?
Everything is self.
I'll do
Yes.
it. I do it.
Yes.
Or, yeah, my kids did all that. I'm like, oh my God, this takes so long.
Yes, you just have to sit there and let them do it.
You have to. Yeah, yeah. You just got to make.
Trying to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to make the time for it. Otherwise, they'll never learn.
Yeah.
How to do anything for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The stuff that you take during the workout is like a branched chain amino acid, essential amino acid, or
I've been doing kind of a mix between carbohydrate and essential aminos during. So I mix those up. Kind of once I normally do it around the first kind of 30 minutes of the training session, and then sip it kind of throughout the rest of the.
And then
the
when you're
workout.
done training, you do something similar again.
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of the same thing again, actually. Right. Yeah. And then I'll throw in. I started using some creatine, which I've gone back and forth on, and that seems to help a lot with the recovery for me. And it's something I haven't used a lot. I know there's obviously a ton of research.
Yeah.
And there's probably people saying like, "Oh my God, you should be using creatine all the time." But Stan and I kind of talked about it a little bit after a couple of the contests earlier this year with the Arnold and World's Strongest Man. And I feel like we've had to dial things in. And from a nutrition standpoint, I just kind of told him I felt a little flat at the Arnold and a little bit flat at World's Strongest Man. World's, I was thinking more along the lines of sweating so much in the Philippines it was hard because I was just pounding the salt, and it just was something where I think that my calories were just too low. And I for lack of a better term, I just didn't feel like I was getting pumped and full and how you want to feel when you're getting ready to lift massive weights.
Right.
So I think that there's going to
like
be
a
some
week
good
of
changes.
lifting too, right? Like when you do World's Strongest Man,
Almost 2, yeah.
You're gone for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then I get these reports from Carrie, and it's like every other day I get like an update. And I'm like, man, how many days in a row is he going to lift? Like, this
crazy.
is insane.
Yeah, 4 days of qualifying, and then you get a couple days off, and then 2 days of
So that's got to flatten you out a lot, too.
Terrible.
I mean, and that's got to be really hard to prep for. Is there something you do in your training to try to, or you just don't even bother? It's too strenuous?
It's pretty much, I actually hate, to be fair, I hate the format.
It sounds like prep for like a 100-mile run or something. Like you wouldn't run 100 miles to prep for a 100-mile run because it'd be too taxing. Those ultra marathon people.
It's awful. It really is, because we're doing in the qualifiers, you're doing only one event a day or 2 events a day, but then it's a fine line of trying to conserve power and energy. So I only put out what I absolutely have to put out. So you get done with an event, and a lot of times for me, I'm like, wow, I didn't even hardly do any work. It's not that hard, and I'm used to bigger training sessions. So for me, the last couple of years, I've mixed in training, going and doing training sessions on top of the qualifiers.
Oh wow!
Just to try to keep my body feeling like I can work.
Right. So you're not so stiff.
I always leave World's Strongest Man, and I always feel like it gets me out of shape because the format is terrible. Right. From an athletic standpoint, it's not what any of the guys do for training. And it's terrible.
This other competition that's coming up, is it different? The one you mentioned that's in like Dubai, I think you said?
Yeah, that'll be it'll be a 1-day format, 6 events in 1 day. So that's going to it'll be that'll be a real test because a lot of the events are very, very heavy.
See, I personally like stuff like that because I know a lot of strongman athletes, and I'd rather see the guys have to be a little healthier.
Yes.
You guys shouldn't have to weigh 470 pounds, or 400,
for sure.
whatever the weights are that people are creeping up to. So if you force the issue on how the athletes compete, then you can kind of reshape the way the athlete is built a little bit, and they don't have to
100%.
be so heavy because they don't have to lift a 1,700-pound
Sure.
yoke. You and I talked about it a
Yep.
bunch of times. Like just add just a pinch of athleticism, or like make it 1 day or 2 days, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you'll have to be able to recover, and walking into this one with 6 events, you have to be strong. But again, that absolutely will be tested, because if you can't recover after the first, event or second event, your day is going to go really badly. So they're big weights, but I think that it fits me better. I like it better, because I typically try to stay in better cardiovascular shape, and training at altitude. I can get my heart rate back down a lot faster than a lot of the other guys. So in between events, I think it'll be huge.
What's the altitude where you live at?
I'm about a mile high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've had guys come train with me, and it's awful for them. It's pulling a truck and that type of stuff is not fun when you're coming from sea level and coming up. We should have one of the bigger contests in Colorado. That would be really interesting. the guys would be hating their lives for sure.
Yeah, that would make them pretty mad, right? They'd be like, I can't breathe.
It would be awful. I mean, we've done some contests at elevation a little bit, but never that high. So for me, it's always an advantage, which is nice. It's kind of, my red blood cell count is always higher, just because it's kind of like living in a hyperbaric chamber to some extent,
right?
And just that's my normal. So it's a good thing. I think it's only a good thing, even though most of our stuff is so anaerobic. It's not the same as you have a lot of like cyclists or runners or those type of athletes that come to Colorado to train at elevation for an extended period of time. But for me, it's more the recovery between events. So I can get up to a max heart rate a lot faster. Well, I shouldn't say faster, but I can get back down faster. So I can kind of get my heart rate up and get back down because of that.
Right.
So it's a big advantage.
So doing a lot of this training with Stan, I know Stan is like, he's like an encyclopedia when it comes to
it's insane.
a lot of the information and stuff. Has he? I know that you've always done a lot of your own programming. Has he? Have you guys collaborated on your training and some things that maybe you should try in training?
Yeah, Stan.
I know it's mainly diet and sleep, and he's helping with that.
Yeah,
stuff,
that was the main part. Really was, hey, here's the diet plan. Let's really try to dial in some more specifics around the sleeping, and daily routine, if you will. So we've added in the walks and different stuff
doing
like
those
that.
10-minute walks and stuff like that.
I try my best. Yeah, I have a recumbent bike in the living room. So if I can't get out, or if it was ridiculously hot this summer or something, I would just do a 10-minute bike ride, kind of up and down. Right. So and with my foot having the issue before World's Strongest Man, Stan was like, "Hey, go buy a bike." Because we'll keep some pressure off and not aggravate.
What was wrong with your foot? The diabetes was kicking in?
Yeah, right.
Oh, you had something, you had a surgery or something, didn't you?
No, I
broke something?
I tore my plantar fascia, so I detached that off my heel before World's Strongest Man.
Sounds painful.
It was awful. Yeah. It was not fun. I was pulling a fire truck and just took a step and ripped it right off.
Oh my God.
So that was not good. And that made World's Strongest Man this year a hell of a lot harder to come back from that, because I did that about 4 weeks out from the contest. So I did a lot of the training. Stan helped me with this, actually. Stan and Ed Cohn both. My knee was on a bench, so a lot of the deadlifting I did before was with
I saw some
one
of the
leg.
deadlifting you were doing.
Yeah, and taking weight off of that. It made it a big challenge. We overcame it. I mean, it's unfortunately, with competition, sometimes you got to work around stuff like that. So, as I said going in, it was not ideal, but you can pack it in and say, all right, poor me, whatever, or you can kind of make a plan and try to get around it. And I did. And I mean, even with all that being said, it's still getting third place. They're really close to second. A couple things fall a different way. And honestly, I break the contest down a lot more than most guys do. It's insane, like how close things were at World's Strongest Man this year. The truck pull, there's 4 of us within 1 second of finishing. So you go, I think it might have even been 0.8 of a second. So, and I got 4th place out of those guys, so you change that. And then, a couple other things I made, simple mistakes, little stuff like that really cost me. But that's what you got to analyze and come back better, for sure. So it's,
Are you motivated by the competition? Are you motivated by the fact that Hafthor Bjornsson is kind of coming into his own? He's been on fire as of late. Does that get you fired up? And also, does it maybe sidetrack you away from what you're supposed to be doing? Because you're like, maybe you watch his training, you get excited, and then you fall in the trap of like trying something that he's doing. Yeah,
he's had a good year. There's no way that I'm not going to say that. He's definitely had a good year. It's Hafthor's an interesting guy, man. He's been around. Basically, we've competed in the sport almost the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Total, and it's kind of, people have always kind of talked about, he's got a bright future and he's got all this potential and everything, and he's come close and now never won. And eventually now he's won, and everybody's super excited, and rightfully so. I mean, he did a good job. He had a good year. He definitely dedicated himself more probably than he ever has.
Some insane improvement on the deadlift.
Yeah,
really crazy improvement on the deadlift. I remember years ago, I was with Benedict Magnuson, and he was like making fun of him, and he was saying he can't deadlift, and it's like, well, it looks like he fixed that.
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I think he was very motivated last year after World's Strongest Man, and came back and really worked hard and wanted to come back and prove it, and he did. And that's, ultimately, for us, any top competitor is gonna use that as a fuel,
right?
And he wanted to come back. He's never, obviously, until this year, hadn't won the Arnold, hadn't won World's Strongest Man, been close. And
I think maybe he didn't place at the Arnold either until this year when he won it. I think something like that, right?
Yeah, he got last year he got 2nd place.
Oh, okay.
But that was his first podium, top 3. Yeah. And then he won it this year. So he was 2nd last year, and then I won it, and then we flip-flopped this year with him winning it. And they've definitely, Arnold's a weird one. They changed events around, and he definitely, the events were very good for him. I knew that going in this year, that they would suit him super well.
Right.
So he had a good mix, man, and his training was on point. I'm not going to lie. Going to the Arnold this year, I underestimated him a little bit because he's never deadlifted like that at the Arnold. He's never put together a great Arnold, and I think he would admit that himself. It's always kind of been, he'll call a wrong weight on the deadlift, or, kind of have some type of mistake somewhere. He put it together. So.
Stan helps both you guys. So
yeah,
does that ever seem like a conflict?
It's
or has it been just fine?
I think it's been just fine. I think a lot of people have thought, with us both working with him, that he's gonna, have a favorite here, a favorite there, or whatever. And I honestly, he was working with Hafthor first. I've talked to Stan before about things, and a lot of the. I even told this just to him a couple days ago when he was out in Colorado. It was mainly, for me, the digestion part of it, that he was talking so much about that, and that's what made me really reach out to Stan and say, hey, man, I need to work on my digestion.
Yeah, you thought it was normal that you were just sitting on the toilet for most of the day, right?
Literally awful, man. My stomach was just hurting, and I couldn't take it anymore. And so that was the big thing, reaching out to Stan. It wasn't so much, that, hey, you're working with Hafthor and he's doing well. I just needed help. And I listened to something actually when he was out here that you guys put out, and
nobody would know anything about Stan if it wasn't.
Yeah, so it was super good. And first and foremost, when I talked to Stan, I was like, look, if you're working with Hafthor and you want to keep working with him and not work with me, or whatever agreement you guys have, I'm good with that. But Stan was like, man, I don't care, whatever. And
Stan's so neutral with everybody else. He's like that. Yeah.
He hardly even talks about Hafthor with me, to be honest. It's definitely, I don't get the sense where he's playing favorites or anything. Right. And now There's another guy, Jerry Pritchett, reached out,
Yeah.
and Stan was talking to me about working
Another
with
great
him,
deadlifter.
and Nick Best. Now,
Yeah.
we were
Man,
doing
Nick
this.
Best is like 50 years old, isn't he?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So he's doing
He's
the
still
diet.
lifting like an
Yeah.
animal.
So I mean, all these guys are working with Stan. So I don't think that he really can or wants to play favorites or whatever. I think he just wants to ultimately help the guys out, and
Right.
if he can assist them, however. I don't think it's a big conflict of
Right.
me versus Hafthor or whatever. It just happens to be that we're two of the top guys in the sport banging
Have
heads.
have you had any tests done on your stomach? Have you had any I don't know exactly what they would test, but blood work done or these different things?
So I'm in the process of doing kind of like a whole gamut of blood work at this performance place that actually your brother Chris turned me on to.
Yeah.
That's in Colorado, and so I'm currently waiting on the
I
results.
think I may have met the owner at my brother's
bet you
movie
did.
premiere, the Leap of Faith premiere.
And I think his name is Chris too, Hetherington, or
Something like that.
He was
Yeah,
an
sounds familiar, yeah.
NFL player.
Yeah.
So Chris sent me this text and I was like, hey, and the ironic part is I seen the place before, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So they definitely
Yeah,
weren't
supposedly
doing
it's a beautiful spot. I heard.
Yeah,
I heard it's really cool.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like they have everything under one roof.
Yeah.
And what he said to me when I talked to him on the phone was basically he wanted to put everything that he would have ever wanted in his NFL career under one roof and make it accessible.
Yeah, hopefully we
So-
see more of that in the future,
Yeah, well, I'm fascinated. I mean, I'm going to go back in. We kind of did some performance testing, and then all the blood work, genetic profile, all of that.
They're
so
like,
it'll be
yep, got the paperwork right here. Turns out that you're a giant and you're a mutant.
Yeah, mutant.
All right, that'd be $200.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. I'm curious. I mean, I've of course done all the normal blood work, all of that with Stan, and tried to improve. My vitamin D was low and all that type of stuff.
Electrolyte balance and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
So we're doing some of that and may do more of like a sweat test. Dan was kind of talking to me about doing
Right.
some of that.
Yeah,
in the
George
future.
Lockhart does that stuff. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's all these little pieces. It's trying to make it all better, and I think it's for me it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like if I guess for me if I got to the point or was at the point where I said, hey, I'm not interested in doing any more testing or trying to manipulate my training anymore or whatever, then at that point it's not fun anymore.
Right.
So I still am very excited. I think that some of this human performance stuff is still kind of getting scratched. The surface is getting
Right.
scratched, and where can we get to? Where can I get to? And
Right.
Stan keeps. It's funny. I think he said his best total he set at 45, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And he'll send me these messages.
It's about when he was like his biggest, and yeah, it was around 45. Yeah.
Yeah, and he told me he's like, well, for me, he said kind of in the next like 4 years is where he expects me to be my strongest. And he's like, I got the plan. Don't worry. Like we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
It's kind of so. For somebody like Stan to say that to me is pretty exciting. And I think
Right.
that if I can play my part, be dedicated, whatever, still have fun, and try to push the envelope, it's going to be pretty fun to see, where we can get to.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I hope more of the human performance stuff, I hope it does accelerate, because then hopefully, like a lot of times what you see is that stuff ends up leaking out into the general public, and the general population needs a lot of help.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are sick, a lot of people that are ill, and you can cure and you can overcome a lot of these diseases, and a lot of these things can be fought with the correct types of foods. But it's just mind-boggling to me that something like going to the dentist. If somebody has insurance, they'll go to the dentist twice a year. It's kind
Sure.
of like booked and it's set up, and it's you go twice a year. And every once in a while, somebody might miss a session and go once a year. But like clockwork, they go every 6 months. But yet there's no physical examination of how your body's doing.
Sure.
But yet we care so much about our teeth. And it's really weird. It's a really weird thing. It's understandable. Yeah, let's keep our teeth clean. Let's have some good hygiene. I get it. But what about getting blood work done? At every gym, and every gym in the country should be performing these blood tests on people. It should be very simple.
Yeah.
It should be a very simple thing. If you have insurance or however it would work, I don't know exactly how it would work, but if more people got it done, it would it would probably be a faster process. It'd probably be a less expensive process. But you know how it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're trying to like figure out, oh, what test do I need? And
Yep.
it could really help a lot of people. Just imagine if they just went, from the time they're 30, until the day you pass on, but you just go once every 5 years even.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that's interesting, and that's a good question. Why is it such a big deal?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you get the people
You could
that
save
are scared.
people's lives even with some just general blood work.
Yep. Well, I think you get people that are scared. They almost don't want to know.
Yeah. Well,
And that maybe the unfortunate part is they don't care to know. They don't want to. They don't want to have something on a piece of paper that says, "Hey, you are really unhealthy.
Right.
You have all these different problems." It's almost more of a stressor to get the test done.
To unleash it. Yeah.
But again, it's confusing, and most people are
Can be very confusing.
Yeah, it's something they're not going to take the time to kind of take the steps and
But
figure
if somebody's
the whole thing
like,
out, 'cause it's not easy.
If somebody's markers for inflammation were like through the roof, you can say, hey, I don't know what your sleep looks like, but just from your blood work, this tells me that your sleep is probably crap, and you need to walk. Just walk around your damn neighborhood. Like those two things right there, I mean, it could change somebody's life. It could add an extra 5-10 years to someone's life.
100%.
And then, go back, get your blood work done again in another couple months, and you look and see, like, I really didn't make that many huge changes to my diet. I've moved around a little bit more. I slept a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm doing better.
It's those two things are absolutely. I think sleep. It was funny. I had.
You had all kinds of problems with your sleep. Was it your hand?
Oh my God! Yeah.
You couldn't hold on to like a 45-pound plate, right?
I could. Well, at one point for me, I couldn't. I couldn't do simple things. I couldn't clip my own fingernails. I didn't have enough strength left in my fingers to pinch.
And you were still competing at that time.
Yeah.
You're still figuring
Nuts.
out.
Yeah. I couldn't open a doorknob. I literally couldn't. I remember I would go to wash like my pan, like cook my eggs, and I couldn't hold the handle of the pan anymore because I just didn't have enough strength. But my hand was so atrophied, and all of that was from sleeping wrong.
Yeah.
It was literally all.
I wish sleeping on that one side or something, and with a weird pillow, or not a. Now you have a special pillow or something.
It was my stomach. I was sleeping on my stomach with my arm up, and my elbow was just getting crushed.
There's 400 pounds on there every single night.
So that was awful. I mean, I've tried. I've had a lot of people, through things that I've said, whatever, reach out and say, "Oh my God, I was experiencing that same thing," and then I went and made a change. But I wouldn't wish on anybody.
Yeah,
because that was horrific. Like that's the worst injury I've ever had.
And then how, like,
sleeping.
I know you went through a lot of you went through a lot of trial and error and trying to figure out what was wrong, but ultimately, what fixed it?
CPAP, sleeping on my back.
So a CPAP machine fixed your hand.
Yep. Yeah, I got a special pillow that would help
I saw it.
teach
You're
me.
traveling with it, right?
Yes, it's here. Yeah.
And you don't leave home without it, right?
I don't leave home without
that
my
and your
pillow.
CPAP machine you bring
100%,
everywhere.
100% everywhere. Yeah, so I had to teach myself. It was a pain to do that, but the other frustrating part with that is like a CPAP machine. It was so unbelievably hard to get it from the doctor. Yeah. And something has to be fixed with the healthcare system because people need these machines.
Yeah, like, you got to come in for a sleep study. It's like, I got to go sleep in some weird.
Yeah. When I was initially trying to get that, it took me probably 4 months.
Right.
I had to go.
And by the way, you can die from this.
Yes.
People die all the time from sleep apnea.
Oh, it's awful.
And it takes you 4 months. It's an emergency. It's a medical emergency. And it takes you 4 months to get it.
And
equipment.
I'll be honest. I mean, and whatever. If I get in trouble for saying this, whatever. But I got so fed up because I had my first CPAP machine and it got old. And I called
wore it out.
Yeah. Well, there was new ones that were kind of auto-regulating now.
Yeah.
They can sense how much you're breathing, how much air you need. And I wanted one. I wanted a newer one. And so I contacted my insurance and the company that send me all my supplies, and they would not give me one. And this is recent.
Right.
Right? And so finally I was kind of having the conversation with Stan and I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to just go buy one. Right. So I bought one on eBay.
Right.
A brand new, somebody didn't want it, whatever. And that's the machine I have now. And so I just called the sleep company, whatever, that sent me all the supplies, and I said, I'm just done with you guys because you're crap. Like you all you do is you send me this, and then I have to pay the bill.
I like
anyway.
that you called them up to tell them that they suck.
Yeah, they were awful.
You're
I
off the
said
team.
I'm sick of I'm sick of dealing with you guys. I need this machine, and you will not give it to me.
Right.
So I'm going and buying it on my own, and I buy all the supplies off Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper, even with the insurance and everything. The bills that I would have to pay for the new kind of nasal mask and the tubing and the filters and
I wonder
all
why
that
it's
stuff.
deemed a medical device. Why can't you just buy it?
It's ridiculous. All it does is blow air.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt. What is it going to hurt?
It's
It's only going to help people.
Did it take you a long time to get used to sleeping with it, the CPAP machine?
So the original one, this one would have been easier. My new one would have been easier because it's a auto-regulating one. The first one, the biggest thing was the air pressure, but it would cut the air pressure for me.
Sometimes it pushes a lot of air into you, and you're like,
Yes.
oh my God.
Yeah. But it had a ramp feature. I remember at the beginning not being comfortable with all the air pressure that I needed at the beginning. So it was a ramp, and it would just start very slow, and you'd kind of breathe into it, and then it'd take kind of, I don't know, 5 minutes or whatever it was to kind of get up to the full air pressure.
Yeah.
And that was good for me to learn.
Yeah.
But the hardest part, I think, was learning to sleep on my back. That was really hard because I had
And you
slept on my
can't sleep.
stomach.
You can't sleep on your side either with the CPAP.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it's not easy to. Yeah.
I mean, even now, I'll kind of roll in the middle of the night, and my wife will get mad at me because the seal will break a little bit, and she's like, "Hey,
it'll get all loud."
Yeah, that doesn't work. So
windy
get
in here.
back on your back. But it's it's
She just
sleep
elbows
is,
you.
Yeah, it's well, she's already lack of sleep with the baby, so if I make noise,
man.
now we have a big problem. But I always tell her it's definitely better than me snoring, because if I didn't have the CPAP, I would be terrible, and that wouldn't work. So
I sleep right now with a breathe right strip on my nose, and then I sleep with my mouth taped shut. There's just a thing you can buy off of Amazon. Because I tried a CPAP for a while, and I just was really.
I know we talked about that.
Yeah, I struggled with it.
Yeah.
And then I basically just at one point just said, "Oh, the hell with it! I'm just going to get in better shape and just not." I would like to train myself like off of it completely. And then I would sleep on my side with my pillow kind of like under my jaw to try to keep it shut. And that seemed to help a little bit. And then Ron Penna, who was the founder of Quest Nutrition, he was like, "Oh, you should just tape your mouth shut." And I thought he was kidding. And I went online and looked it up. And there's all this research on how it helps because you're more productive, I guess, with the more CO2 that you produce. It's not so much about the oxygen that you breathe in.
Interesting.
And I was like, all right, well, I'll try these. And I got it off Amazon, like $20 or $10 or something.
And it helps.
Helps a ton. I don't go to sleep without it anymore.
Huh.
I have trouble going to
Do
sleep
you think
with
you
it.
had problems with the CPAP because your mouth was open?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It would be interesting to see if, because I never had a hard time with that, keeping my mouth shut.
Right.
But I could imagine if your mouth was open with the CPAP, it wouldn't be good.
Right.
And I can imagine that would be very uncomfortable, and you would not sleep.
Yeah, well, I would wake up because like my throat a lot of times would be so dry.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah,
know?
that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, my girlfriend asked me to try the tape around the mouth thing because I snore like crazy for some reason. I like a bear at night. And then she's like, "Yeah, it'll
She
probably
must hate you.
Yeah. She doesn't hate me. She hates when I snore.
Yeah.
But she's like, "Yeah, it'll probably help you, stop snoring." I was like, "Yeah, because I'll probably die. Like I can't breathe out of my nose in the middle
Well,
of
you
the
got to
night."
get a
Like,
breathe right strip
so
too.
I
You need to be-
I
need to be all-
went looking for those and I couldn't find them in the store. I was pretty upset because I was like, "Oh, let me go get one of these breathe rights," and I couldn't find it.
You might
So,
need to get on the CPAP train.
I'm down to try it, but
Honestly,
I don't know.
man, it's
Maybe I can buy your
because
old
if you're
used
snoring,
one.
if you're snoring like that,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's
It's
a lot of
amazing
times
how much better you'll feel if you get
Oh,
good
it's-
I
sleep.
bet.
Well, do you wake up? The question is, do you wake up tired? I mean, the quality of sleep.
I mean, it's better now, but no, absolutely. Like, I mean, rewind, I don't know, like a year ago, and I'd wake up just exhausted every day. Now with my diet a little bit cleaner and, kind of getting in a good workout regimen,
Probably
it's,
helped.
It's better, but
Yeah.
no, I still like she'll nudge me in the middle of the night, and I'm just like, shit, well, sorry.
But if you break your sleep pattern like that,
you're right.
I mean, there's no way to really get in that deeper sleep,
Yeah.
and also you're making her miserable if you're snoring. So it's kind of one of those things where I think a CPAP. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, you have to be overweight or you have to be big to need the CPAP." And there's a lot of women out there that, for whatever reason, snore terribly, and
Yeah.
they just need a CPAP because
Right.
it's just the way their throat or their nose or whatever it is that causes the problem.
Yeah.
But it's you don't have to be necessarily overweight or big or have a thick neck or I mean it's just the quality of sleep can go down so quickly, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. It really is, and there's so much to it. I'm even still trying to learn. I mean, I got contacted by this company that's going to send me some stuff out, like some different sheets and this thing to monitor kind of my sleep cycles, and the sheets are supposed to pull the hot air away from you.
Right.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, man, if you guys want to send me samples,
Yeah.
I'm down, to
Yeah, I've
to
heard of
figure it out.
that, like chili pad and stuff like that too. It's like a pillow that's like 68 degrees or something. It's
It's-
supposed to keep
yeah.
you cool, and
Yeah.
it's all kinds of things you can try. There's the heavy blankets. I don't know if you've seen those, but they're like a 25-pound blanket or
It's
something
supposed
like
to
that.
make you feel
Like more secure. And
Yeah.
just like, it's supposed to help people that are just that have like restless leg syndrome. And
I'm really interested. The guy made a good point on the phone. He's like, "Hey, you probably," or he had followed a lot of my stuff and said, "All right, Brian, you track all your food and you track your training and you're thinking about all this different stuff, but then you go to sleep at night, and how are you monitoring your sleep cycles, or do you know if you have?"
yeah.
And all I have is the machine measures how many hours I sleep, and then if the seal, or if I'm breathing good, it'll give me kind of like a green happy face or whatever, which always makes me feel good with the machine having a
Yeah.
little green happy face.
We
But
recently had Joel Green on our podcast, who was just the amount of information this guy shot out was crazy. But he basically said that on your you can just get an app that tracks like your snoring, and
Interesting.
it can track your it can track to kind of see if you're snoring, and it will kind of tell you about your quality of sleep. He said it's just like, I think the app might even be free.
huh?
But I was like, oh well, there's a great start, for people that are like, I'm not really sure. Like, I
I
wake
wonder
up.
how did he say how it tracked
He didn't.
it?
He
or-
didn't really say. I don't know if it's like an audio component to it or something. I'm
Huh.
not sure,
Yeah,
but
so there's apps that you can like you place them like on your bed, like next to your pillow, and when you're passed out, it shows you that you're in REM sleep, and then when you're kind of moving around or whatever in non-REM, or if you like completely snap out of it, it'll show you when you woke up throughout the night.
right,
But even like Fitbits and stuff, they'll track your sleep,
right.
and I don't know how accurate they are, but
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to do.
I purchased something called an Aura ring, but I haven't used it yet. I don't have it like it's not.
That's not like a weird thing that goes on.
No, it just goes. It goes on my fingers.
I don't know that we were going to talk about that.
Yeah, it goes on my fingers. Your
Okay.
hands might be too big. You have to get sized for like the ring. Like, what size wedding ring do you have?
I think
18 or something.
Gigantic.
something big. Yeah.
Let me see
yeah.
that thing. I think I'm like a 11 or something. This wouldn't fit on anything of you. Yeah, that thing's monstrous. It fit right over top of mine. But anyway, it's just a little plastic ring that you put on, and it tracks your sleep and stuff. And again,
That's pretty cool.
The guy from Quest Nutrition is the one who suggested that I give it a try, because he's like, I tried every app, I've tried every contraption to track sleep, and he's like, this is the best one. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that'll save me a lot of headache trying to
Yeah.
figure out what's the best.
Well, and it's just like you said, more information gets out there, and,
Right.
and it's probably just being conscious, and the first step is probably thinking about, okay,
Yeah.
well, hey, I want to figure out how to get better sleep or
Right.
more quality sleep. And so then
Yeah,
you,
then maybe you think about keeping the room dark, and you
Yeah.
think about not having your phone with you, right? Or whatever the
Yeah.
tools are that you're going to use.
well, the compromise, Stan told me, and this didn't work, but he's like, with the new baby, he's like, Brian, you got to get in the other room. Like, you got to go sleep in the spare bedroom. That was not going to happen, right? Like with Carrie, no chance. So I actually bought some Bose. Bose just started making these sleep buds. So it's literally, they fit. It's a noise canceling thing that fits inside your ear, but I can turn it up, and then it's got just different, you know, kind of like a airplane noise or a circulating fan, that type
Right.
of thing. But I can sleep then in the bed, and the baby doesn't wake me up, right? So it was a compromise. Now, I had to. This was a thin ice kind of tread lightly conversation, you know, like, hey,
What are those things in your ear?
Yeah,
You're still sleeping.
yeah.
You don't hear anything.
I've been
The other-
talking to you
yeah.
for 4 hours. You haven't said a thing.
I haven't said a word. Yeah.
Best conversation ever.
So that was the compromise we had to make with the baby, you know, waking up, because I told Carrie, I was like, I mean, this is just, you know, with the baby waking up, it's breaking my sleep cycles and I can't recover. And it's
great.
you know, I mean, it was a fine conversation. Stan was very adamant about the other room, and Carrie was very adamant that if I slept in the other room, I should probably move out, kind of thing. You know?
I never understood why your bed's just not like a giant tent. Like, why can't you just like zip your bed up and have it be like super dark? You know,
Yeah,
because
it'd
the
be
rooms,
perfect.
like
Yeah.
when you go to a hotel, it's nice and cool in there, and it's
Oh, it's
insanely dark.
Yep.
And you pass out, and you have no idea what time it is when you wake up. the
Yes,
next
it's
day.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
But
You need.
in your own house, it's not like that. I wish your bed was like a tent, and your bed should like rock a little bit too, like a baby's crib,
I mean,
so you can get some good sleep.
maybe this is.
What, I gotta think everything around here
Yeah,
is-
the new slingshot bed that's coming out. He's hinting at it, but
Yeah,
we're working
slingshot
on it.
tent bed.
In that book that I'm reading, they did a study where they put somebody on a like a swinging bed, and as they got into deep sleep, they swung the bed and they got even into a deeper sleep.
Yep, that's it.
It was weird. Yeah. It's
Man.
it's a
Rockabye
thing.
baby.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to go home and tell Carrie we're gonna do swings.
She might be into it. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I don't know.
Baby number 3.
No, not baby number 3. Yeah, that's nope.
Got enough babies going.
Yeah.
on.
Two is good.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about Larry Wheels? Have you seen this kid?
Yeah, man. It's I've seen some videos.
He's insane.
It's ridiculous.
Maybe,
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
maybe he could give a crack at the Thomas Inch dumbbell press?
So I asked Stan, right, and
Because that kid's a freak.
yeah, so Stan came out and he hadn't seen one before, right? And he was in my gym, and I said, "All right, Stan, let's see if you can pick that up." And he couldn't do it. It didn't make him happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's probably really mad.
He was very frustrated by the Thomas Inch dumbbell.
It
But
doesn't seem like it would be a problem to pick it up when you look at it.
No,
I mean it
it's-
doesn't seem like it'd be that big of a deal.
yeah, it's deceptive.
Yeah,
It's
here's
deceptive.
Larry Wheels deadlifting 765 for I don't know 6 or 7 reps or whatever.
Yeah, he's
Kid's a monster. But so he did an overhead press with I think with the well, I don't remember if it was with a log. I guess that would make a huge difference.
I think it was a barbell.
But-
Recent.
Yeah, but he did. Yeah, it was 440 pounds.
yeah, was it 440 or 425?
I think it was 440.
Yeah,
That's
it
like
was
some.
impressive.
I mean, that's
Either
some
way.
like world class strength right there, right?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Well,
now a log has got to be a lot harder though, right?
It
or-
depends on how you're built. It can be because it's much thicker and you can't.
Right.
The line is different.
But maybe the range
But-
of motion might be shorter.
Slightly, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the handles are inside the middle of the log. So,
Right.
but still, I mean, he wasn't using leg drive. The barbell I saw him press, he didn't use leg drive. So he basically just brought it down and strict pressed it. It was
Yeah.
He was leaning back, which is fair. I mean, in strongman, you can press it however you want as
Right.
long as your head gets through at the end. But still, it was an insane
Yeah.
press. I mean, and especially at his body weight.
Yeah.
To move that kind of weight, you know, it was very, very impressive. I mean, he's, I would love to see him come mess around. I mean, and I don't know how into the grip stuff he is,
Yeah.
but if he could pick the dumbbells up, I was having a conversation with a training partner actually about the Thomas Inch dumbbells after I incline pressed them, whether Larry could give a crack at it, because the weight would not be a problem if he could get it up to his chest. It wouldn't be a problem at all.
Right.
It would be more the grip and the control and being able to pick him
It'd be
up.
interesting to see if you could balance it just because he does weigh so much less.
Yeah.
Right? Like that might
Yep.
be hard, you know, just might not have the body size underneath him
Yeah.
to
Well,
handle
it would be fun. I mean, I think it's
Here
pretty
he
cool,
goes.
man.
Yeah, 200 kilos.
Yeah, that's
What a mutant. Now, can you do that in strongman? Can you lower it and then press it out?
yeah.
You can
Well,
do
I mean,
whatever.
if you,
Yeah.
You-
well,
you would-
log, you wouldn't have the range of motion to do that.
yeah, you would. I mean, the difference would be for us. We'd have to pick it up from the ground.
Yeah.
So figure out how to get it up. So But still, that's
Yeah.
that's nuts, man.
You know, I hate to be outdone, so I got to tell you guys that I did 185 pounds over my head once before.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Not 185 kilos.
Oh my God! No,
185
that's a
pounds.
hard movement. I hate
is.
doing overhead presses. I've never
Yeah.
really messed with them much. When I was younger, I did a lot of like seated behind the neck because that was like
Yeah.
an Ed Cohn thing from years ago.
Well, it wasn't important. I mean, you're with the bench; it's not as important,
Right.
You know, and it's which is pretty cool because he's coming from a, with
Yeah,
powerlifting and then bodybuilding.
Right.
I mean, granted, bodybuilding a little bit more, but you're just trying to develop the shoulders to look good.
Right.
You know, not necessarily from a big max strength perspective.
Right.
So it's pretty crazy, man. It'll be interesting to see. He's what 24 now, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
That's
really young.
nuts. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses. I mean, I know he's said something about doing some strongman stuff,
Yeah.
maybe. But I would love to have him come out and train.
Yeah,
You
it'd
know,
be really
it'd be-
cool to see him. He's so explosive and stuff. It'd be interesting to see him trying to handle some stones and even like Kaler Woolham, like
Yeah.
Kaler with those long arms. I'd imagine that he would be. You know, you never know until someone tries it.
Yeah,
but
yep.
I imagine he'd be pretty good at the stones.
Well, he has kind of a good wingspan.
Yeah,
You know, it just the leverage is so different with picking up a stone. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys try to pick stones up over the years, and sometimes it's deceptive. You think this guy's going to walk up and be a monster, and it can't figure it out to save
Right.
his life, and other guys don't look very opposing or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're amazing at it.
pick up
So,
a 300-pound stone with no problem.
yeah, they're just like it's like it's empty. You
Right.
know, it's a really weird thing. Strength is a really weird thing. I mean, it's even grip strength.
Yeah.
That's the same. You know, with those dumbbells. I've been at expos before where we've had hundreds and hundreds of people try to come through, and it's sometimes the person that doesn't look the
Yeah.
part, and they'll just pick it right up. Like
Right.
it's no problem.
And
you know?
sometimes they don't even have big hands. Like a lot of times you're thinking, well, if the guy's got these huge hands, maybe he'll pick it up. And sometimes that's the case. But
It is,
sometimes
yeah.
the guy's just got a normal hand, and for whatever reason, he just has crazy grip strength.
Yep. Just it's a funny thing. It's fun to watch. It's fun
Yeah.
to do. You know, I mean, and so somebody like Larry, I mean, he may walk in and make it look like a toy, or it could be really hard for him. You know, depending on how strong his thumb is, or how
Right.
you know. I mean, it'd be fascinating to watch. You know, and I think that's what all aspects of strongman. I think that's probably for me what's so fascinating
Right.
is it's. Over the years, there's so many different challenges.
Yeah,
and
so you did
can't be-
the 45-pound plate, right? And
Yep.
then you had, was it 5s or 10s on each side?
Fives. Yeah, three fives. But it was the type of plate
And then
was super
how
important.
high did you
Yeah.
pick it up? You pick it up like
Just
above your waist or so?
Deadlifted it. Yeah.
Deadlifted it,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. But that old school, the milled back York plate was the most important part of
Mm-hmm.
that because the hub is so shallow. It's very, very difficult to be able to get your fingers on it
Right.
and to apply enough pressure to pick it up. So doing it with a more deep plate that has a bigger hub on it is it's completely
Yeah.
different. So that was it's just one of those things. I've messed around in grip stuff for fun, mainly for fun. I mean, I can't say that I've at times I guess I've trained the grip,
Right.
but more for the training is the specific strongman stuff. So like a farmer's walk
Right.
or an axle, clean or
Gonna
something
just
like
train
that.
it anyway.
Yeah, but these kind of obscure, if that's a good word, grip feats,
Mhm.
I haven't necessarily worked. I've just
Right.
kind of said, hey, that looks like fun.
I'm going to give it a try.
Let's go do that, or let's get something bigger or whatever. And I have, definitely had a ability to do it where I haven't had to, work for years.
Right.
Whereas there's people out there that will work for, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to pick up a Thomas Inch dumbbell,
Right.
and they just have to work and work and work. And for me, the first time I saw it, I picked it up,
Right.
no problem. It wasn't, I remember that.
Was that in a strongman competition, or did somebody just have one laying
No,
around? or
I
something?
went with Joe Ken when I was at Arizona State to the
All roads go back to Joe.
Joe
Ken.
Ken.
They
That's
really
it.
do.
Big
Coach
house
house.
power, baby. Yeah. We went to I went with them to the NSCA conference in Vegas, and Richard Soren, was there right when he was first getting Sorinex off the ground, and
Right.
he had a booth. And I was walking through an expo, or the kind of, it was a very, kind of primitive expo at
Right.
that point, just kind of a few
Not everybody
booths here
knows,
and-
but you are a certified strength and conditioning coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, out of
went to
college,
college
that's
for
what
it,
I
right?
wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do, was be a strength coach. And so that was kind of my first open door, was at Arizona State. And that's how I got to know Joe Ken and those guys there. And it was fun, man. I went and I had read about the Thomas Hench dumbbell, and I was walking through that expo, but it was kind of, I think, a lunch break or something.
Mhm.
And so I saw it at the Sorinex booth, and I was like, oh, that's got to be a Thomas Hench dumbbell. So no chalk, no nothing. Just walked over to it, picked it up, and set it back down. And Richard happened to just be kind of down the aisle, and he ran up, and I had read about him, right? I knew who he was, but I didn't quite realize right when he ran up. But he ran up, and his eyes were huge, and he was like, "Did you pick that thing up? Did you pick that dumbbell up?" And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't." And he's like, "Well, can you do it again?" Yeah, and I said, "Of course I could do it again." And so he wanted to take a picture, and he got me set up with all this, kind of liquid chalk and whatever, and it actually didn't dry. I'd never used it before.
Right.
So I didn't know kind of how much to put on
Right.
and that. And so it's funny. He's like, well, I want you to pull it up as high as you can this time. And so I've got a picture. He took a picture and mailed it to me after that. But I'm pulling this Thomas Hench dumbbell up the first time I lifted it, and he sent a note. And it was funny that that day he told me, because he had seen people for years try to lift that, and nobody,
Right.
had done it. I mean, maybe he'd seen somebody do it as easy as I did, but he basically told me I was stupid if I didn't use my gifts.
Right.
I remember that specifically that day.
Right.
He's like, you have a strength that's one in millions. He's like, I
You gotta
didn't
do
say
something
that.
with it.
He's like, you have to use that in your life somehow. And that's before I started competing in strongman or
Right.
anything. I mean, I was just this, kind of guy out of college, strength coach, want to be whatever,
Right.
know, and just did that. And it was funny.
It's weird.
now.
It changes your path forever. One thing.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was already on the path in
Yeah,
a way,
yeah.
but it was interesting
It's
to
kind of
hear.
a driver. Yeah.
Yeah, to hear him say that was like, wow, this, and he was so certain about it. I remember how specific. It was just kind of black and white. Like, look, you are stupid if you don't use these gifts that you've
Yeah.
been given. So it's pretty neat, like full circle. And of course, I got to know him over the years. They used to do a lot of the equipment before Rogue
Right.
with the Arnold Classic, and they had all this grip stuff. And I still need to get out and visit him. He did
I
a
heard they
lot of grip stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of grip stuff there at
Yep.
his facility. So I would like to go out and just kind of try to mess around with some of that stuff for fun. But
Who has the strongest grip that you ever seen?
I would say in person, Mike Burke,
Hmm.
and he trained with me.
Yeah.
We should have had a camera guy like during a
And
lot
Mike
of our.
Burke was like a contractor, right? Like a
Yep,
yeah.
yep. He's a framing contractor from Colorado that then went on, competed at World's Strongest Man, competed at the Arnold Classic. And I mean, some of the grip things that we did on a daily basis in my gym were mind blowing. Like, I mean, people would lose their mind. Some of the challenges that Mike and I did together, because he was really, really good at like an axle. He set the world record in an axle, like a double overhead axle deadlift. I was
Kind
a
of weight
little
did he lift on that?
500 and
Oh my God.
I think 516 pounds, like on a polished,
Yeah.
smooth 2-inch axle.
Yeah. To put that in perspective, most of the guys here at Super Training that have been very, very strong, guys deadlifting 700-800 pounds, have double overhanded around 400 pounds, and that's on a regular bar. That's on not even a regular bar. It's on a deadlift bar.
Yeah. So it's
So-
got a good knurl.
It's
Yeah.
got a good knurl, and it's very thin compared
Yeah.
to what you're talking about on an
Yeah,
axle bar.
Do you
I did.
remember this?
That was one of the expos I was talking about. Yeah. Not the one with Richard Sorn.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
that was two. So a double.
That's
double
probably around the
inch
time
double.
I met you.
Probably pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been, I don't know what year that would have been, but yeah, that's That's the feat that we're talking about, picking 2 of those up and then putting them on my legs and then doing an incline press with those
Wow.
dumbbells.
Damn.
So,
Oh, I see what
Yeah.
you mean too. I forgot that they're. You said it before, but now that I see the picture, I understand. They're completely rounded off. They're like
Yes.
it's like a sphere. So
yep.
yeah, there's no
Very hard.
no
Yeah.
stabilization.
Yeah.
Did you think you were going to kind of hurt yourself when you're doing that? Like, were you like,
I didn't really think about that. It was more kind of the challenge.
Yeah.
I made sure my legs were good and chalked up though. And I was ready to let it go if I needed to. We kind of did it in a spot where I had a little bit more room
right?
to drop. But yeah, the stuff with Burke, man, he was his hands were super strong. I was, looking back like I said, some of the stuff that we did, and he actually went and did a lot of grip contests for fun. So people kind of got to know that his grip was amazing, but I wish that we would have got more of it on video, like when we were doing it in my gym, because it was really a good mix with us too, because he, like I said, he was a little bit better with the, at that time with Axel, and then my, like the thick handled dumbbell lifting, I was a little bit better than him. And then my pinch grip was really good. And, the hub lifting like this, he lifted that plate. I don't think he ever did it with the extra weight, but
So one of our lifters, his wedding is actually this weekend. He's been lifting with us for years and years. His name is Damon Thurman, and he is with the Air Force, and he is an airplane mechanic.
okay.
And so he's got a strong grip because he uses these giant wrenches. And so he was able to do the hub lift, and he was able to do it with a little bit of weight on there. If I remember, I think he might have put some. And it looked kind of funny because he put some 2.5s on there,
Sure.
which looked kind of silly. But from what I remember, he was able to do it with I think maybe one on each side. So
Oh,
he was
that's
able to-
great.
yeah, he's got some really really strong hands. I was like, holy crap.
It's amazing the grip strength when like he swung a hammer
Right.
for years before he ever started. He wasn't really what I would say is a lifter. He started lifting to compete in strongman,
Right.
and dabbled in it, but he's not the type of guy. And he's retired now, and I'm sure probably hasn't lifted,
Right.
a lot. Just because he didn't, I don't think he really loved the lifting and training. He just did it because he could compete, and he just liked competing. He
Right.
was a gamer, probably more so than any other guy that I've ever seen. He would do stuff in training, and I was legitimately worried going into a lot of contests about what he'd be able to do. And his response would always be, "Oh, I'll get it on the day," But he literally would.
Yeah.
He could do stuff in a competition setting that was unbelievable.
Just
And-
kind of talked himself into it.
yeah, he was. You have the guys that are training strong,
Yeah, he's a gamer.
and they could do stuff in the gym, but then when you put them in a contest setting, they go backwards and they don't perform as well. He was the exact 180 of that. Training was never as good. Competition, he could do 3 times almost sometimes on lifts. Like
Right.
he'd struggle to get 1 in training. He could do 3 in a contest. It's just
Wow.
amazing. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, I was really, our grip battles in training were unbelievable. So,
When and where are we going to set up the 700-pound stone?
God,
Because
man.
you have the biggest stone lift in the history of mankind, right?
Yes.
He did
yeah.
what, 675 or 6?
No. The biggest, so official world record now 560.
560. Okay. Maybe I'm talking about 600 pounds.
No, I mentioned. It's funny. I did a YouTube video
Yeah,
about
that's
this.
what
yeah.
that must have been what I saw.
Yeah. And I mentioned in an interview I did, or kind of a video with Phil Heath and this is way back, that I wanted to lift a 700-pound stone before I was done, and it's amazing. It's kind of like the wheels fell off that event after we said that. But the biggest one I've ever lifted, I had made was 629, and picked that up, and it was that was heavy, but I kind of stopped pushing.
Right.
It was kind of like, all right, I'm so far ahead of everybody else. Why?
Why bother? Yeah.
Why am I going to risk getting hurt to do something that, I'm not going to get credit for?
Right.
Or at least not in a competition setting. We're not going to get there. So I would like to do it. I mean, the 600 pound barrier is first.
Right.
And that's something that I think a lot of people said was physically like not possible for a
Right.
human being to lift this 600-pound stone over a bar. I know it's possible. I've known it's possible for a long, long time. But
Right.
it's kind of going there. When do we go there? And set it up. But it's something I would like to do. That's been a lift that I've been very gifted at, and especially with the heavy weights on that. It's just something that I'm built very well to
Right.
do, and it'd be neat to do it
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of weight. I mean, remember when you did that 560 at the Arnold, and you kind of,
Threw it.
Yeah, you kind of just threw it. It was insane. I was like, oh, that didn't look that look that hard for him.
Yeah, it's funny. I asked them this year to do the 600, and they said they didn't want to do it there, which was unfortunate for me. But it's something that's been coming for a long, long time. There was kind of a push back around that time, 2011, 2012, whether the 600 was possible. That's why I actually ordered that six. I didn't know it was going to come out that heavy, but 629. I wanted it to be more like 610.
Yeah.
Or just over 600 is what I asked for, but it came out heavier. And so I know that it's possible. It's just kind of like I said, once the envelope stopped being pushed, it's kind of unfortunate, because the competition is what drives it.
Right.
It's when you have a lot of people pushing each other, the level goes up.
Right.
And that's how it is with everything. I mean, it's in this event, it's because those stones are so hard to make.
Right.
They're not very common and they're very expensive.
Yeah. Does anybody even have a 600-pound stone?
I think there's only been a couple that have been made
Yeah.
ever. And so they'd have to kind of revamp it for the Arnold, and maybe that's why they didn't want to do it.
Right.
It would be very hard to do, but
Right.
it needs to happen. I might have to just buy the damn thing and do it, and certify it somehow and
Just bring it with you.
yeah, hey guys, I'm going to roll this on the stage. I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
I'm lifting it, or something. I mean, it needs to happen. That's kind of one of the things that I want to get off my plate is that 600-pound barrier. And then, maybe we go, 300 kilos would be a nice mark, 661. That would be a pretty cool one. And then, of course, 700. I mean, how many people can deadlift 700?
Yeah.
Then you're talking about a 700-pound stone with no handles.
Insane.
Yeah, it's possible. I thought it was possible back then. I mean, that's why I said it in the video, but it's just kind of, unfortunately, one of those things where the bar just stopped being pushed, and I was so far ahead of everybody else, and it's so funny. I don't know why, that lift, it's, it was always kind of Zadrunas had his log press that he was so far ahead of everybody, and I had the stone. It's just you happen to see a log a hell of a lot more than you see a max stone, So it needs to happen. It needs the 600-pound barrier needs to happen. I think there's some younger guys that have talked about it a little bit more, that lifting big stones, and that'd be neat. It'd be neat to kind of get some of those guys involved, and if nothing else, maybe I do like a stone lifting invitational or something like that, and make it happen at some point or something. If I have to take it in my own hands and make it happen, I will,
What you got over there, Andrew?
No, I was just gonna say I checked Amazon. They don't have a 600-pound stone,
It's not-
unfortunately.
it's
and
not
they have,
on,
they have
it's not
everything.
Prime.
It's not
No.
prime shipping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay for that shit.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna ask you because I seen you eating one earlier today. How are the prepackaged vertical meals been going for you?
Yeah, they're great actually. I've been super impressed with them, and I know Stan put a lot of work into that, and so I'm actually kind of teaming up with him. So we're gonna do the ShawStrength meals.
Nice.
That's cool.
Which will be kind of a version of the vertical diet meals as well. So I'm definitely pumped about that. I know.
Are they just gonna be like way bigger?
I was going to say 4 cups of rice.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god.
They are coming. They're definitely. I think there's some talks about making some bigger kind of like world's strongest man meal
That'd be
kind
sick.
of things.
Not everybody wants to lose weight.
Yeah.
Some people
And a
want
lot
to
of the-
gain
yeah.
and gain strength and
Yeah.
so on.
Feed my whole
So the
family with that.
portion sizes can be bigger. That would be great. But yeah, I've been really impressed. I mean, it's something I know they put a lot into it, and for the for the convenience factor, I mean, I'll be packing those with me everywhere.
Yeah, that's gotta be
basically,
great.
like travel wise, and it'll be a lot more convenient than all the bison and Foreman grills and stuff I've had to pack in my bags to cook all my food and have it all ready. So it's been good, but I mean, I know once people try them, they definitely can understand why they taste so good.
What's the most amount of weight you ever bench pressed? Because people ask me all like, what does he
Yeah.
bench?
Yeah.
And I've seen you bench. I want to say at least maybe like 550 or 525 for a rep or two.
I think
or
I
something like
did 525 for 3.
that.
I think that's probably the biggest
Highest
bench
one,
I've done. I haven't gone to like a max. I know we talked about that before, and I mean I really think that I could bench. It'd be neat to bench over 600.
Yeah.
I think the big number would be 661. Like
Yeah,
that,
Kazmaier.
Exactly, and that's kind of, I think a lot of people have said, for whatever reason, it's weird. I've got people that have said like, "Oh, I can't bench press." I'm like, I don't know where that comes
Yeah,
from.
I never really seen you bench. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I could do all right. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do in training is more close grip. I'm not really more kind of living in a close grip range,
Right.
just to try to build up the triceps and anterior delts more.
Yeah.
But
And you use a lot of these movements as like even if it's a main movement. From what I've seen of Brian, he uses a lot of these movements as it's like supplemental, or it's done with such variety.
Yep.
And I think it's smart because when you implement some of the methods of like the conjugate system or some of the West Side stuff, you're no longer concerned about, I need to hit 6 plates on this bench press. Now it's more like I'm going to bring the weight down and maybe rest it on these bars and do a partial range of motion, but there's like a ton of chains on there. And I'm going to do a set of 6, which is way safer.
Yep.
And you're going to wake up the next day and be able to recover from that so much easier.
Yep.
And then 2-3 days from then, when you have to do your event training, your triceps, your elbows, your shoulders, not all blown out and all jacked up.
definitely, yeah, you have to. I like variety. I definitely like variety.
Yeah, I don't. Are you aware of anybody else that trains the way that you're training, like for strongman? I mean, you do a lot of different stuff,
I don't think so.
a lot of angles, and a
Yeah.
lot of like. And I've seen you take out a measuring tape and like.
Oh yeah,
I've
it's
seen.
I can't say that I have. I've never really, I mean, I go and I'll do training with some of the other guys I compete with, and they're always kind of asking me like, Brian, what are you doing, or why are you doing that, or and it just makes sense to
Yeah.
me. It's kind of been a trial and error
Right.
thing over the years where adding all that stuff in, but it's, I think, very important, like you said, from a training perspective, to have a different stimulus, but also not to build up these barriers. So if you're only ever using straight weight, for example, it's very easy to kind of have that number that you get to, and then you can't get past it.
Right.
Whereas if you have some chains and bands and different stuff, you're kind of having different weights at every point in the lift, or you're doing a partial, so you're using more weight. Then you don't get caught up in a number as much because you're building strength at all these different points. And two, for strongman, it's not like we're all the time doing a full range deadlift.
Right.
It's sometimes a partial deadlift, or the bar's different, or you need to be strong at all different points of every single lift. And so, I use a lot. I rotate bars a lot. I throw a lot of different things at the training.
Like a regular squat, for a max rep, or a regular bench, or a regular deadlift for max rep. I mean, I guess a deadlift's probably the closest thing, but you haven't done any of those lifts, right?
Not really. No.
Yeah.
I don't prefer to squat with a straight bar,
Right.
because it's hard on my shoulders. And I remember hearing
The strain on the
ago.
elbows too.
Yeah.
The strain on the shoulders and elbows.
Yep.
Then again, it could be potentially taking away from your pressing power.
Exactly.
Which is,
Yep.
part of strongman.
Well, if you rip your shoulders up or hurt your elbow, that everything else goes with it,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
it's kind of I've tried to stay as safe as I can with the lifting. So a lot of specialty bars on squats. I don't like to squat with a straight bar unless I have it coming up, and then I'll switch it in for the training cycle.
And then a
But
lot of times it's a box squat as well, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yep. But I feel like the box squat, and that's something I got from Joe Ken, back to Joe Ken again, but something I got from him that we were having all the football players at ASU do box squats.
Joe's in his mid-50s, and he's still training as heavy as he was 20 years ago.
Yep.
You know?
And I think the box squat carries over better to strongman. That starting strength off the box. If you get strong and you can start there, it's going to carry over to deadlift and tire flip and lifting stones and everything
It actually
else.
looked like you used it when you did the 555 stone lift.
Yeah.
It looked like that looks like the Foreman technique of coming up off the box.
I think the everything in my head makes sense when I'm doing it with training. It's there's a reason why, and why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And it's hard. I mean, controlling a weight eccentrically to a box and pausing and then starting again is not easy.
Right.
It's just not as easy as if you dive bomb a squat into the hole and then try to come up. It's you can't initially, at least you can't lift as much weight.
Right.
And you have to be willing to swallow your pride on a lot of the lists that I do. And some guys can do that, some guys can't. They just can't. I mean, I've had guys come in to train, and I'll tell them a certain whatever tempo we're going to use, but they don't like to go slow eccentrically, and they don't like to pause because you can't lift as much weight. And then it just, if you're not willing to do that, though, you're not going to get as strong. And it's kind of throwing all those variables into your training. It's important to be strong.
Yeah.
And some people don't get that, and I think there's a lot of people get caught up and want to talk about, oh, look at that speed rep or this speed rep, or oh, he lifted this big weight so fast.
And
but it's and a lot of times, I mean, I'll watch a video of somebody, and if they control a weight really well, I look at that and say, holy shit, that is strong, really strong.
Like Kirill Serkev, when he does any of his big benches, you're just like, oh my God.
Yep.
Like, what is that strength? What is that?
Yeah, you're not, it's not dive bombed, it's not anything. It's just controlled pause, boom,
Right.
But it's kind of like that low end torque that's been built up, and it had to be built up over time, So
do you try to lift that way with most of the exercises that you do? You try to have a good amount of control with each exercise. And I mean, you're trying to go as hard as you can, but at the same time, you don't want your body to move around so fast and abruptly that you hurt yourself.
No, exactly. Yeah, I typically prefer, I mean, just in general terms, more of a controlled eccentric to a pause, or at least a very brief pause.
Yeah.
And then as explosive as I possibly can.
Right.
I'll try to lift it on the concentric phase. And then it's not getting out of control, but it's basically like I said, just a very, I'm talking about a bench or something like that. It's just very controlled, pause, load it up, and then throw it as hard as I can. So I'm always trying to lift as explosively as I can, but with control, especially on the eccentric portion.
Do you do some bodybuilding stuff? Like, are you do you do like front raises and side raises and things like that, like some bodybuilding movements in addition to doing 3 sets of 10 and stuff like that?
I will. I'm not gonna lie. I have thrown them in at points, and I definitely do more volume as well, and it just seems to work well for strongman. My goal really with the training is to be good at everything all the time. So if I have to do a contest where there's a deadlift for reps or a press for reps, I could do that. Or if there's a press for max or a deadlift for max, I could get ready for that as well. So it's at all times trying to be good at all of those things. So I don't necessarily focus one phase of the training on, hey, I'm going to get really good at max strength here, but my endurance is going to go to shit. I don't like that. I like to be well-rounded, and I think that for strongman, it's very important. And sometimes you get too caught up in or you get too caught up in max strength, or you get too caught up in reps, and if you forget about one or the other, you're not going to be as well-rounded.
Right.
And I think that you have to be I know that you have to be well-rounded if you want to be good, because the events are always different. And of course, once I get events, I'll tailor the training in to be more specific to those events. But at the end of the day, you have to be well-rounded. If you're not well-rounded, you're not going to win.
What would you do if you weren't competing? I mean, you've been competing probably for the last 10, 12 years or something straight. Um, do you think that you would pursue other kind of lifting, or I mean, like you probably wouldn't maybe be as excited about lifting stones
Sure.
if you didn't have the competition to get ready for it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that point's going to come inevitably, right? Like at some point, I'll have to retire. Of course, they've built up like masters contests and that type of stuff, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. I would like to do a contest where our boys are old enough to kind of remember me competing. Now, whether that'll be at like World's Strongest Man or not, I don't know. You know, if I'll do it that long, I don't know. You know, it's kind of, but something, whether it's maybe some Highland games I've thought about in the past, or, you know, grip you can compete in. There's grip contests.
Right.
And that's, since I put out some grip videos, I know I've had people tell me that
So you probably still try to do something where you're competitive.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. I mean, the grip stuff will be neat because that's not very physically taxing.
Right.
And it's something that your grip can get stronger for a long time. Or you know, like I said, like Highland games, or who knows, maybe some crazy stuff like arm wrestling or whatever. I mean, that's always been kind of fascinating as well. And that's a lot of wrist and grip strength and kind
technique and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that may be fun. It may be something different to kind of go into as well. For me, I need challenges, and I think it's kind of like you. Probably the same thing, right? Like, why would you do a bodybuilding contest? Because you wanted a challenge.
You know what I think would be great for you is just to, and you did this at my daughter and my son's school, is just appearances like that. You know, I think you'd be a great speaker. I know you're looking for something more physical, but you know, I think that you would inspire a lot of people, and just, I mean, what it takes to be a champion. You know, like people just they haven't been World's Strongest Man, or they have never rubbed elbows with the World's Strongest Man. So to hear it, and then to be able to especially if you're a kid, you're like, man, that guy's like massive, and there might be another kid that's a little bit bigger than everybody. He might not think that he fits in with everybody else. He might look to you and say, oh shit, there is something for me to do. Maybe I'll play football. Maybe, oh, he played basketball. Like maybe I can play basketball, or maybe it just inspires them to do something that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have tried.
Yeah, I've tried to go into schools. I definitely could do more of it, and that is really rewarding. But
they went
funny.
nuts when he went to school. And he lifted the stone, and like you could actually tell that you enjoyed it, but you can also tell that he's done it before. So he was like messing with the kids and stuff.
That's awesome.
They were all laughing. They had a great time.
I've had kids come up to me that I went into their school when they were like elementary school aged, and now they've graduated high school. And it's pretty crazy that they remember one day out of their whole elementary school phase or whatever that I came in and talked to them about something.
Well, think about it. If you were a kid, you know, and let's just say a professional boxer came in, that was local, like you'd be in awe. You'd be like, oh my God, this guy, like, he punches people like for a living. This is cool.
Yeah.
Or an MMA guy, or a strongman guy. It could be anybody.
Well, and it doesn't, sometimes with kids, I don't think it takes a lot to kind of spark that thought process. And if they're, whatever they're going through at the time, you know, you can maybe say just one thing right. And really kind of light them up and say, hey, I can make it, you know. And I've gone back to my old high school, you know, and a lot of people, said growing up, oh, you're from, well, it was Fort Lupton is the name of the town I grew up in, but you're from Fort Lupton, you're not going to do anything, you know? And it's unfortunate, but a lot of the kids that go there, I think, maybe get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And say, well, I'm from Fort Lupton, or you know, I'm from this small town.
Insert whatever town, you know, they say that in my town.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, you know, but I got this wild, you know, thought process, like, why the hell not me?
Yeah.
You know, and I really grabbed onto that,
and it has to be the thought process has to be so strong, and it has to be like almost irrational. For you to kind of hold on to that dream. Joe Ken has told us before, even on the podcast. He said, "I'll tell you something, man." He goes, "That Brian Shaw." He's like, he told me, he told me to my face he was going to become World's Strongest Man, And he was like, I was thinking, well, he's a big kid. Like, I'm not going to doubt. Like, he can do all kinds of things. But he's like, in the back of my head, I was also thinking, like, hey, son, like being world's strongest man.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, and here you are.
Yeah,
You've
you're
done it.
just talking about challenges. Do you think anybody's gonna beat, at least in the game right now, beat Eddie Hall's deadlift record? A handful of people were asking on the live chat
Whether I could do it or whether anybody
is if that's actually the first question should be, is that even on your radar?
I would be lying if I said no.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it
How
is,
much has he deadlifted?
1,100.
Oh, right, 1,100.
So-
Yeah. Now that was with a deadlift bar, calibrated plates, full basic powerlifting setup with a suit. That's the setup,
Right.
right? And so the Arnold, everybody talks about the Arnold, but the Arnold's a different bar. It's an elephant bar with the 2-inch wide plates that's spread out. Even though I don't think they got the effect they wanted with that bar, I don't think it flexes nearly as much as what people say.
Yeah.
So they like to compare it more to the Hummer tire deadlift, which was a much higher pull, more flex in the bar.
Hummer tire deadlift, talking about like 1,300 pounds.
Yeah, so the best on the Hummer tire deadlift was Zadrunas did 1155.
Wow.
And I did 1140
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
was the most. So big weights,
Yeah.
more than what Eddie
A little
did.
shorter
but it
range
was-
of motion.
Yeah.
It was definitely a shorter range of motion. And so the elephant bar now with the Arnold is hard to compare to what Eddie did. And I think that's where the big argument comes is, well, these guys, we're not wearing a suit at the Arnold for the elephant bar. Eddie was wearing a suit, which how much does the suit give him, right? It's still a massive, massive lift. The 1,100 is a massive lift. And he put it out there. He said he was going to do it, and he came through and did it. And, for somebody else to do it, I think it is possible. But he dedicated probably a full year or more of his life to that deadlift. And he definitely made the commitment to doing just the deadlift versus the whole strongman contest. Right? Like he didn't pull anything. He didn't do any other event that day. It was just the deadlift. And the year before he did just the deadlift and didn't do any. And so that's the question of competing as a strongman. I've always been more kind of focused on winning the entire contest. So I want to be good at the deadlift. I want to be good at the press. I want to be good at the carries and the stones and everything else, instead of just dropping everything out and being a deadlift only guy. And it's a remarkable feat of strength. As Eddie said, he's the first to do it, right? And matching it, he set the bar. He set the bar. And you have to take your hat off to that because he dedicated himself. He said, I'm going to do this, and then he went and did it. Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible for somebody else to do it. It's, when will it happen? I don't know. And
Your
for
best
me,
deadlift is, what do you do, like 1,030 or so in training? Or
yeah, yep. I've done some other deadlifts with kind of a band setup that were, I don't remember what that was, like 1,050 for two. I think that the capability is there. I think I just need to get the setup right. And again, it's the time. It's the dedication to that one specific lift, because other things are going to have to go away a little bit. You can't be training all these different strongman events and putting as much dedication into that as needed. But, again, it's an interesting, certainly something interesting to talk about, and that big deadlift, I think it would be neat, really neat to break it, because Eddie set the bar, and two, then every time I got to see Eddie after breaking it, you could talk to him about it,
trash.
and that would be fun, So
with that deadlift that he did, was that done in a strongman competition, or is that just a single deadlift event?
it was done at Europe's Strongest Man, but it was one of the events in the strongman contest. But what they did is they would allow guest lifters to come in just for the deadlift.
Right.
So the deadlift only counted for the deadlift, but he could have competed in Europe's Strongest Man. Whereas if I would have went, I'm not European, so I can't do Europe's Strongest Man.
Right.
So I would have went just to do the deadlift.
Right.
But yeah, that was.
So he did it as a single event, which is a little different than, because
Definitely.
if you roll the dice on 1,100-pound deadlift and somebody else pulled 1,080 and
Yep.
you mess up your placing and you miss it.
Yep.
So everything's got to really align for
Well,
somebody.
that was my going that specific day. They actually asked me to come compete, and I had a couple of conversations with the promoters about that contest, and I said if I come over, I want to pull. I wanted to lift, if I remember right, somewhere between 1,050 and 1,070 is what I was hoping to be able to call. Right. And I came in, I had big conversations with them, and they said, no, we're not doing, the jumps are, I think at that point to break the current world record, it was like 1,026. So right in that range, 1,025, 1,026. So they were going to do that jump, allow the guys that could break that record at that point, do that, and then they were going straight to 1,100.
Ah, gotcha.
And so I went back and forth and said, look, guys, like, I think I'm not ready for the jump to 1,100. I think I could pull something, maybe 1050, 1060, and I'd like to have that opportunity. And then if Eddie wants to sit out and go for the 1,100, then let him. They weren't interested in that. They wanted basically the format of that contest. What the jumps were already set. They made that very black and white clear, and so that's why, at that point in time, if I remember correctly, that's exactly why I didn't go, because I said, well, I'm not. I think there's going to be a couple guys that can pull 1,025 or whatever that number is, and then I'm not sure anybody can pull 1,100 is what I said, and then Eddie proved it's a moot point because he lifted the 1,100.
Right.
So the problem was, again, the big controversy would have been if they allowed me to come lift a 1050 or 1060, and then Eddie would be backed into a corner,
Right.
because he had the world record. And so if I pull 1050 or 1060, he sits it out and misses the 1,100. Now I have the record, and he got penalized essentially.
Right.
But that's how a normal contest would work. But the way it was set up, again, now it's a moot point because he lifted the 1,100, right? So all the credit goes to him because he did the lift, and it was all this big talk before. Was he going to do it? Could he do it? And he did it.
Yeah.
So those were the rules. I decided to back out because I didn't like the rules, and that was my choice. And he lifted the weight. So it's it's a big feat. Will it get duplicated?
Wow.
I think it can be duplicated, but again, it's kind of how much are you going to focus on that, and maybe take away from the other strongman events. Doing the great feat would be to break 1,100 in a full strongman competition,
Right.
and then come back and do the other events. That would be ridiculous.
That'd be sick.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Is to do that. That might be the way to go. But
that elephant bar, when I watched a lot of the guys deadlift, and you're seeing the deadlifts go up and stuff. So I mean, clearly it's helping, but the guys are just getting stronger.
Yeah.
But also for some people, it looks like it's not really. I think the idea was like this is going to help people pull a little bit more weight because the bar is going to bend. There's going to be some flex to it. But I noticed it really throws off a lot of the guys with their timing.
yes.
And the bar, like, yes, it bends, but then it like flexes, and it will like oscillate up and down, and it'll kind of bounce in your hands, and it looks like, you see a lot of guys, their legs start to shake, and the weights are huge, so obviously there's going to be strain.
Yep.
But it looks different than what I've seen in the past, and so it looks like the bar is, bending a lot, and the weights are out real far, and it doesn't look like it's working the way that they maybe want it to work.
Yeah, like I said, I think they, in their mind when they made that it was going to be this giant bend, have a very good visual effect.
Right.
And I don't think it flexes nearly as much. And what you said, because the weights are so thick and they're away from the bar, if you don't pull it straight through, if you get caught up in the middle at all and start shaking, the bar just magnifies that.
It's almost like trying to squat it.
Completely.
Yeah,
Yes,
your whole
it's
body just starts
very-
to tremble, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's a different pull. It's a different animal, man. It's a different, it's very hard to compare it to anything else because there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah.
And that's I think where people get caught up with the weights, and that's just a unique. It's kind of its own thing. Just like the Hummer tire deadlift was its own thing at the Arnold.
Right.
The comparison now starts to happen just because it's from a standard height. And that's where I think everybody gets caught up in, well, what about a regular deadlift bar with calibrated plates on it?
Yeah.
And they're comparing it to that. It's two different lifts. You can't compare the two.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget about Benedict Magnuson. You know, you can't forget about Benedict Magnuson and his deadlift. His deadlift was a regular deadlift, done kind of under some powerlifting conditions with no straps. And I say, hey, wear whatever you need to wear to lift the weight. And I always like to see the most weight lifted, but Benedict did it under some different rules so that a lift is different.
Yeah, it's no straps and no suit.
Right.
2016.
Right.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, and again,
he crushed that weight too.
That's been how many years ago now, and nobody's got close
no one's
to that as well. So it's all these things I think spark arguments, which is good. It's actually not a bad thing that people talk about it and want to compare, and it's long as you understand that all these factors are different. And that's I think what with strongman deadlifting, people want to talk about the straps, and then they want to talk about whether you wore a suit or not. And I mean I personally would lean obviously more toward a no suit deadlift and that, but it's that's just, it is what it is. Everybody's going to you have to have your own personal preference.
Right.
And I think suits are annoying, if I'm honest. I think
they
they're
annoying,
terrible. They're not comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where once you put a suit on, I think with the internet now, is like, well, how much did the suit help?
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think that's the argument that's been brought up more is, okay, how much did that help? Or if you took the suit off, what could you do? It's just like with Ed, it's like he wore the suit and lifted 1,100 pounds.
Right.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So what does it really matter? Right. It is what it is. So if the next guy wants to put a suit on and lift 1104 or 1105, okay, there you wore a suit. That's fine.
Right.
It's if somebody's able to do it without a suit, that's even better. Right. It's just kind of, but that's like you said, the rules are there.
Right.
And if you're allowed to wear a suit, he probably, should think about wearing a suit if it helps you.
It's hard to put into words and to really help people understand all these things. Like a knee sleeve could potentially help you lift a little bit more weight, but it's not really helping you lift that much more weight. A belt can help you lift more weight, and straps can help you lift more weight. But they're also safety tools as well. Like just the under-over grip, we've seen so many guys over the years tear their bicep. As soon as I stopped powerlifting, I started wearing lifting straps because I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother to do an under-over grip ever again. I don't need to do it. I tore my bicep years ago, and I don't want to tear it again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't have a need to do it that way, And it's hard to describe to people, the difference between like a bench shirt or a slingshot or a squat suit versus even just a light pair of briefs that you see a lot of strongman guys wearing. These things are like, they're safety pieces, but they're not really, again, a belt can help you lift quite a bit more. But aside from the belt, really, these things are just more like safety tools,
Absolutely.
keep you warm and keep you healthy and keep you from like really blowing anything out. But a squat suit or a bench shirt, once you start to implement those things are actually enhancing the amount of weight that you can handle
100%.
by, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, and sometimes even more.
Yeah, I would agree completely. It's a different category.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain that to people that don't understand. If you
Right.
put it on, like you said, a pair of knee sleeves, I mean, they keep your joint warm, and it makes it safer to lift big weight.
Yeah, right.
And that's really what it is. How much are you getting out of it? Hard to say. Some
It's not gonna help
people are
you.
going to debate it.
A knee sleeve's not going to help you lift 50 more pounds. I mean, it's
No.
just not.
Yeah.
I create them, I make them, we do the best job we can, making the best ones that we
Yeah.
can, and it's not going to help you by 50 pounds.
Sure.
It might help you by 10.
Yeah, of
It's even
course.
hard to relate or to figure out.
But if you feel better,
Right.
and it's safer, I think
Right.
it's safer, especially with the bigger weights. I love them because my joint feels warm and
Right.
compressed and tighter, and I feel like I'm not as at risk for injuring myself
Right.
lifting a bigger weight, and
Now,
that's
when you
really
feel better, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
absolutely. And trying to explain that. It's just, you could debate for so long about what this did and what,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's fun to see big weights get lifted. I mean, that's, I mean, I would watch a guy in a squat suit take a big ass squat out and squat it because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I would watch the same, person if they didn't have a squat suit on.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
it's just seeing big weights get lifted is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And you can debate however you want, but to each their own. At the end of the day, if it's within the rules, go for it.
Yeah.
And throw up some massive weight and have some fun,
Yeah. Watching you on stage at the Arnold was probably the most craziest, awesomest experiences I've ever, experienced. The crowd chanting USA, USA.
We're gonna do that again this year. Yeah.
I couldn't even keep my camera straight. I was shaking. I'm
Sure.
trembling because at this point, I've spent a lot of time with you and training
Absolutely.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
So now I am all in. I have a vested interest in what the fuck is about to happen right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And the thumbnail for this video right now is from that day. I kind of just got the chills thinking about it. How the heck do we get people to experience that? How do we make World's Strongest Man better?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think the way I'll answer that is I'm trying. One thing that I said throughout my career is I want to try my best personally to make the sport better and to make it grow more. And so I'm
That's
trying
one of the first
to do,
things you told me is I want to leave the sport better than when I came into it.
Yes. Yeah. And I've tried to have meetings. I've tried. I mean, I've tried to do a lot of things. Is what I've tried to do already. Some of those things have worked a little bit. Some haven't helped at all. I think that for World's Strongest Man, ultimately what needs to happen is that it needs to be shown live or really, really close to live, maybe the next day.
Yeah.
Or something. Because the way that they do it now does not work. And it's not good for the fans. It's not good for the athletes. It's just that it doesn't work. They're happy with it, I think, because it's a business deal for them. And I understand they've done it the same way for years. I've tried to give them ideas that I've had about instead of doing all this qualifier stuff and whatever, make it, harder to qualify to get there, and then have it a set number of events where everybody comes in and just competes, whether it's 12 guys, 14 guys, maybe up to 20, but everybody does the same events and it's just a big final. But then you could broadcast it live and have the same format and hours of TV potentially.
Right.
But the level of competition would be very, very high, right?
I mean, I would imagine it'd be so much more lucrative, to get sponsors to show live, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they'd
what
probably
about
pay twice as much as what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, and what about a stream, right?
Yeah,
if you could
that's a
stream
no-brainer.
it and then have people pay to watch it, or, I mean, I'll tell you who's doing
CrossFit
it.
did a lot of that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they did a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and who's doing it right now is the guys that are doing Europe's Strongest Man. I mean, that was I think 12,000 people live audience. I mean, how crazy is that environment for strongman? I mean, that's
awesome.
amazing,
Yeah.
And I think that's the right direction. They're doing these big arena shows where people can come and interact and be part of the environment, and then you could watch that live and have it get out there. But I mean, I have had a lot of people. Now World's Strongest Man basically is on YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram or whatever within minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And they've already seen who's won or who's performed and what. And then they're not interested in watching the TV, version that's edited and all this. They just want to see it live or close to live.
They just want the results at that point.
I think that for strongman to grow, that needs to be fixed somehow. I don't know what the answer is, because again, they're producing a TV show that they're packaging and selling to all these different countries.
Right.
And they're happy with how it goes. And especially the UK, for example. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to have to wait from basically the beginning of May we finished. They're not going to see that until Christmas.
I think it just aired now though too. Didn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, within the States. But then in the UK, it won't go live until Christmas or
Oh
New
my gosh.
Year's.
That's crazy.
Right? And I mean, they've really backed off their, kind of handcuffs, if you will, on the athletes, and they've announced it now.
Yeah.
It's
you
a
know,
really small.
but-
It's a really small speck in the greater scheme of what that company does, and that's the bottom line. You know, they're just just like any other company. They got their bottom line,
Yep.
involved, and that's the way they do it. And they're probably not going to change it, and so somebody
they
else has
make-
to come
I
in and probably
think-
do something different.
Yeah, I think ultimately they their bottom line is making money.
Right.
And they make their money that they are happy with, and they package it and they sell it to all these different countries.
And they got
that
so many
show
other
it.
shows and so many other things to worry
Yeah,
about.
it's and they're not worried about getting more sponsors, for example,
Mm-hmm.
on board. I don't think, or making it grow into something
break.
huge. I just don't think they are. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's been the same kind of format for years and years now. And I think they're happy, like I just said, they're happy making the money they do, and ultimately, if it grows into something massive, for them, I don't know that that's going to touch their bottom line, because they're making so much money from other stuff that this kind of niche strongman sport.
It's such a
isn't really-
bummer.
yeah,
I mean, dude, like I've been like on the field at at NFL playoff games where like the game-winning touchdown happens in overtime, and it's like a fraction of what I felt when I watched you deadlift. Like it's not even close, and
People-
nobody
it's-
can't even comprehend that.
it's amazing when you're in person at a live strongman event how fun it is.
Yeah,
And I think that a lot of people don't understand that unless they actually go. And that's where that live audience, when Eddie lifted the 1,100 pounds, I think it was in front of like 12,000 people.
that's sick.
So that adrenaline rush of that many people amped up, ready to go, hyped up about what's about to happen, it drives the athletes to a higher level. And it's amazing. The environment is just amazing. It's electric. And it's, again, how do you package that with World's Strongest Man and bring that to the kind of live audience? I think that's the question, and taking the sport forward. But I'm going to still try to do my best. I think, with stuff that like YouTube is huge now, getting some more stuff out there. And I'm trying to do a lot with that. And
Yeah, you're doing a lot more videos lately.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to your new camera guy. He's
Absolutely,
been doing awesome, man.
James, you hear that, buddy? Doing good, man. But yeah, that's been neat to grow, and it's amazing because it makes me and kind of the sport more accessible.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately can really help to grow things. And so I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to, play my role, I guess, as much as I can to make it grow. But I don't know that we're going to kind of solve the bigger, hey, let's get World's Strongest Man live on TV. I don't know that that's something I can do. But all these other little pieces about making it more accessible or getting it, touching more people, right? Or inspiring more people or, kind of bringing it to the fans' attention. That stuff I can help with, and to make the sport better and to make some of the guys more accessible would be awesome. So we'll see, man. I mean, it's a fun, certainly a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. How do we get your number 5? How do we get the 5th?
Number 5 is there. I know it's there. This was a tough year for me. With things and especially like we said earlier, with the detaching the plantar fascia, pulling the truck before the contest. I've been through a lot of battles, and this was just another one. A lot of the training had to really, really be modified, and kind of overcoming that mental hurdle going into the contest this year, taping my foot up and just trusting that I was going to be able to even compete was hard enough. And it made it a challenge. I'm, definitely happy I did it and all that, but I need a good buildup is all I need, really. I mean, the events change every year as well, and that it would be nice to get a good mix of events for me, but it's not something that I need. Nice. I think that for me, it's just the good training. I think dialing everything in. I'm doing a lot right now with some of the testing that I said earlier. I'm really excited to see what I can figure out with that. And who knows? Maybe that'll give me the extra 5% that's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I may uncover something that I haven't known my whole career with some of this genetic stuff and some of the blood work and whatever, and be able to really take it up a notch. But it's the last couple years have been different with that. I mean, it's at that level of competition, it's unrealistic. Of course, you train to win, and you train to go in there to win. That's my job. That's what I'm trying to get done. But things just haven't quite fallen. And that's competition. You have to accept that, and be hungry to come back. I mean, it's not, okay, this one didn't work quite right, let's throw in the towel and everything's done.
Yeah.
And it's I look at it, back in 2011, I kind of put myself in Zadrunas' shoes, right? And that's an interesting spot because in 2011 I absolutely dominated strongman. Dominated. I won the Arnold so easily that year. I almost didn't have to do the last event. I won every other strongman contest that I entered in 2011. I won World's Strongest Man. And Zadrunas at that point was, people were still talking about how strong he was, but then here's Brian Shaw winning everything, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking in my head now, Hafthor came in and won the Arnold, won World's Strongest Man this year, which is big, but I've done that before. I did that other times. It's not like Zadrunas had to come back from that. And then, in 2012, he came back and won World's Strongest Man, So it's great competitors don't sit here and say, well, this guy won the big contest this year, I'm going to throw in the towel and hang it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I have to bring a better package, right? I think there's some things I got to get dialed in. And I'm going to constantly keep trying to improve here. But I don't feel like my strength levels have dropped off. I feel like I had a couple things I had to overcome that weren't ideal. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's really what it is. So, coming back, I still feel like I'm at a really good point with strength. I feel like I'm still hungry to compete and excited. And so to get number 5, it's have a damn good build up, stay hungry, stay focused, and come in ready to win. I mean, that's really all it is.
Basically, you know that if you put in your best effort and with all your training and everything that you're doing, you kind of check that box at the end of the day. Did I do everything I was supposed to do? You could check that box going into the competition. You know that if things fall into place, that you could still win.
Absolutely.
You could still end up being the world's strongest man again. So why not continue to keep pushing the envelope? Why not continue to keep working hard?
I think it's something for me where I really believe that if I have a good build-up, I'm the strongest. Right. And I haven't questioned that. I haven't doubted that. Through all the years, I think of all the contests that I've come into, and there's been some. I mean, 2016, I think, was probably the last really good build-up. And I remember saying before that contest that as long as I perform, there's nobody that can beat me at that event. And I really and truly felt that way, and that was true. And you have a couple of these things that happen with 2017 and 2018, but that doesn't mean again you throw in the towel and you don't. It's the internet for sure, and fans can be a little fickle and that type of thing.
And people don't understand sometimes these high level competitions. Like I competed at the time. I was making my way through powerlifting, and I competed at a national event. And I ended up going 9 for 9. It's the video that you end up seeing in Bigger, Stronger, Faster.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Bench 700 pounds. And, people don't realize that to me, that was my greatest day in powerlifting, I finished 7th, in my weight class. I finished 7th. Like there were some really strong people there. That's like my proudest moment. I've won before. I've won national stuff. I've won world championships. I've broken world records, and I've done some things in powerlifting, and they were all fun. But that one in particular, I put everything I had into it. I knew what I was getting into, and I knew the competition. I knew the people that were showing up for that. and it was all people that I admired at the time. It was all people I was like kind of like almost in awe of, you know. And then when I competed, I made all my lifts. I did everything I was supposed to do. So how could I be disappointed with myself?
Sure.
You know, finishing. Really, I looked around and what I noticed was I was the only one in that weight class that was as tall as I was. You know, and I'm like, it looks like I just need to gain some weight.
Yeah.
Looks like I need to eat some cheeseburgers and
Yeah.
get out of here, and everything will be fine. But same thing happened at this bodybuilding show. I put everything I had into that bodybuilding show,
Yeah.
and I guess I could look back and say, like, you know, maybe there was like a little extra food here or there I could have probably, you know, done without, you know, if I was a seasoned bodybuilder. Maybe I could have been a tiny bit tighter, but I was really happy with the effort that I put in. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun to do it. But I wouldn't have felt that way if the effort wasn't there. If the effort wasn't there, I would have felt shitty about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, a lot of times people too get caught up in the end result, you know, and that's I'm really proud of it in a lot of ways this year. I mean, a lot of people didn't see behind the scenes, right? But I mean, I went from a point where I was pulling that truck. I tore that plantar fascia off my heel. The next morning, I literally could not walk. I got out of bed. I literally crawled on my hands and knees to the kitchen. And I was like, I told Carrie, I was like, we got to go in and I got to get like a crutches or so. I can't even put pressure on my foot. Right. And so I went from that point and, you know, taking all of it in, building myself back up, training without putting pressure on my foot for World's Strongest Man, learning how to tape my own foot every day for training. I'd go out there before and tape it all up so I could try to load it a little bit. And then I within 4 weeks had to learn how to run with an 800-pound frame on a foot that was torn that was supposed to take 12 weeks to heal, right? I figured all of that out, and it was overcoming all this mentally as well, leaving for that contest with my son potentially being born without me there, trying to, and all of that, overcoming all of that to get to the point where I'm still competing at World's Strongest Man, still placing top 3, overcoming all that. So how can, like you just said, how can I not walk away from that and be proud? Because most competitors, you know, if they were to come in healthy, whatever, and get top 3 would be elated,
Right.
you know? And I battled all of that within myself and you know, that injury and all that to come back and do pretty well. Was it a disappointment? Yeah, it's a disappointment because I'm Brian Shaw and I'm supposed to win,
Right.
you know? But that's the bar that I set for myself. But at the end of the day, if I can't take a step back and say, well, I still overcame all of this to get there, how can I not be proud of what I did? You know, it's still a top 3 at World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
It still goes, you know, I mean, all of that as well. So it's just getting, if I can do that, overcoming those odds, how in the world can I not win if I have a perfect buildup?
Right.
It's ridiculous. I mean, and you know, it's you know, and that's with every other competitor having a perfect buildup. And I always hope that they always do. You know,
Right.
I want to see everybody at their best. I want to compete against the best. I hope that Hoffler has a great training cycle for next year leading into Arnold because I want to beat him at his best. You know, that's just the way it is. That's how my brain works. And so, you know, if I didn't believe that I could win, then I would hang it up. I'd be done. But it's if I can do what I did, battling the adversity that I did, there's in my mind, it's like, man, it's going to be easy when I'm healthy and I don't have to deal with some injury that I can't walk, you know, it'll be a lot easier. So,
Yeah, the hardest thing with focus is not to focus on what it is that you're chasing. The hardest thing is to block everything else out. You know, have such laser focus that you don't see anything else, you know, on the peripheral. You're concentrated so hard on what's ahead and what the job is that you want to get done.
yeah.
A lot of times those noises and those different things, they distract and pull, and you get distracted or pulled wrong way at all with what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's enjoying the process too. I mean, I enjoy the training. I think that's what has made me so good is I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the training, you know, and so when I'm done, the end result, of course, is what I'm training for and what I'm working for, but I enjoy the build up. I enjoy the work that goes into it and just the whole process. And I think that, that's a good thing too. And it's healthy to be able to enjoy that,
Right.
and if you're only ever so focused on what the end result is and that it's maybe not the best thing,
Right.
like you need to enjoy the process and grow personally and obviously physically with all of it because it's good. I mean, it's healthy, competitive. It's a good environment. I mean, if I didn't enjoy going out in the gym and throwing the chalk around and getting crazy and
Right.
lifting some weights, I mean, it wouldn't be a good thing. So I'm excited. I'm still excited. I mean, I've been in the sport a long time, but at the same time, I still definitely feel like I've got a lot in the tank, so people that are wanting me to get number 5, it's coming.
Chick-fil-A, you spent over $100. What happened there?
We got done training and the guys and I just said, hey, let's go have a cheap meal, and it ended up being $100. Yeah,
That's pretty fat. How many guys were there?
3 three of us, $100 bill. Yeah,
Was it delicious?
it was actually really good. Yeah.
Was it worth? Sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes you cheat and you're like, that kind of sucked.
No, I was all right with it.
You're pretty excited by it.
I mean, I hadn't had Chick-fil-A for a long time, because obviously I'm not eating chicken
Yeah.
and also not fried chicken sandwiches on my diet. So I think this lady here was just
They're
like, are you serious? Is this order?
Yeah, they're
gonna
all trying
end?
not to laugh, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, the one in the back. They all. I
Oh,
think
now there's people lined up looking at you guys.
Yeah, it was like the circus came to town.
I like how everybody that's always with you, it always looks so small, but then I meet them and they're like
They're
6'6".
big, yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What are some favorite foods that you had to put aside, for this vertical diet? Couple things you really like a cheesecake or something like that, or ice cream or pizza or something.
Cheesecake, unfortunately, is not on the diet.
What?
I'm
What kind of diet is it, Stan?
Yeah, Stan. It's
Strict rules.
No, yeah, really strict. It's crazy,
Yeah. Did you
Eating
see?
for performance.
Did you see that George Lockhart has Conor McGregor on the vertical diet now?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
There you go.
sick.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's
That's
awesome.
a trip. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, Stan and George, they share a lot of information, and it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. What's next, big guy? What do you have coming up in the next week or two?
Oh gosh,
Just a lot of training.
Yeah, next week or two is a lot of training. I'll be out at the Olympia Expo.
At what booth?
I'll be there with Redcon because Slingshot's not going.
We're not going.
The party's not happening this year.
That's right.
So I'll be there with Redcon for that, and
Cool.
then yeah, back home and training. I've got about 8 weeks here until Dubai, until
Right.
that contest. So it'll be a fun build up for sure, and then some other big projects that I can't necessarily disclose yet that are in the works and hopefully
Very
very
cool.
exciting as well. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of great stuff on the plate that's exciting, and life is good. So
Your YouTube channel is ShawStrength, right?
ShawStrength, yeah. Everything for me, social media wise, is ShawStrength. So
There's been a lot more
Instagram,
videos up lately on your
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
We're definitely. I got a like we mentioned, a great guy that's helping me out with that, and really opened some doors. So we're trying to do a lot more
Cool.
with it to get out there, and then try, obviously, like I said, everything is ShawStrength. So the podcast, the YouTube,
Doing
the
more stuff with your
Instagram.
website? Stuff
Yeah,
like that too?
ShawStrength.com is getting revamped as well.
Cool.
So that's very exciting. We're working on that, trying to get that done as well. So yeah, it's all as you know, it's kind of all a moving
Yeah.
kind of animal that
Yeah.
we're trying to control, and I've got my wife is now helping me as well
That's
with it.
great.
So she's going to be by far the brains of the operation, and that's going to help things a lot as well.
Does she still have some of her stuff going on, the Fit Mom Academy, stuff like that?
Yeah, she's still doing that,
Great.
Which has been exciting, and that still trying to make all that grow. I think that it's been fun for her going through the second baby again, and kind of going through the whole process and being able to share. She definitely tries to share a lot on social media about the struggles and the thought process, and because it's hard on women, man. Like
it's got to be brutal.
Just kind of the body image stuff that you go through with having a baby and trying to get your body back. It's, she's definitely been more transparent, which I think a lot of women definitely appreciate, because she'll share more struggles and all that, that I'll wake up and see a post sometimes. I'm like, wow, I can't believe you said that, but she's trying to be real.
Yeah. When I first met my wife, I could swear she had fake tits. When I first met her, they were just sitting right there. After we had kids, it's very clear they're not fake. Let's just put it that way.
I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole there.
Yeah. Well, but you wanted to wrestle my wife, though. That's okay.
Sumo wrestle.
Listen, I don't know what we're talking about with the text message. There was some wrestling. It was a confusion.
It's even funny. He's like, I thought I was texting Smokey.
I seriously did, and you can imagine how that text went. Yeah,
that's so good.
I was like, oh shit.
He did apologize for it, which
I did.
Which
yeah.
I would have just like not said anything to
Just
anybody. I would
left it
just
alone.
pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah, I would have. I feel like that would have been more awkward. It's kind of like this elephant, and he's like, "Brian, what the hell is this message about wrestling?" And it got weird quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. See you guys later.